Happy Hour Friday here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Don't forget, watch the show live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I'm your host, Mike Gill. What's going on, everybody? Happy to be here on the Friday edition, the Happy Hour Friday. I missed the Happy Hour Friday last week, but we're back, and good to be here as we've got so much going on with the draft last night. No Ben Simmons move. I guess there was nothing to be, it was kind of a clunker of an evening, I guess. There were some trades beforehand, but nothing crazy. No Ben Simmons trade. There wasn't even really any Ben Simmons rumors throughout the course of the night. So I don't know how motivated the Sixers seem to be. There's two questions. Are the Sixers just not motivated to trade Ben Simmons, or are they holding out for the best deal, or this deal that probably won't come? So we got a lot there. Obviously, this Ben Simmons stuff will be consuming us for most of the summer. It'll be like the Carson Wentz stuff from last offseason. Where will they trade him? What's going to happen? Where are they at? All that stuff. Ben Simmons and Carson Wentz, very similar. Two guys that seemingly don't have the right personalities for the cities that they play for, or players that were once embraced and then kind of fell out of favor with the fan base. Wentz, by the way, is out indefinitely. He has a foot problem, so the Colts have had to shut him down already. And, of course, last night Ben Simmons did not get traded. So all of that is on the docket for the Sixers, on top of the fact that they took three players last night, and they are Jordan Springer, who is a kind of a defensive-minded guard, could shoot the ball a little bit out of Tennessee. I wouldn't anticipate him really being in the rotation the first year. I like Charles Bassey. He's a Western Kentucky big man. Probably could play right away, defensively anyway. Blocks about 3 shots per game. Very athletic big man. Shoots the ball a little bit from beyond the arc, about 30%. But if he can work on that shot and get that shot down a little bit, he might be a guy that helps you down the road somewhere. I think all three of the guys they took last night are probably going to be in the G League. So keep that in mind. Phillies last night came with an unbelievable come-from-behind performance yesterday, which I didn't see happening, right? Got to give them credit for that. The trade deadline's today at 4 o'clock. What will happen? Well, this is what I do know. What I do know is they have not made a deal yet, other than they swapped a couple of minor leaguers with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know what the reasoning is behind saying, hey, let's swap a couple minor leaguers. But that's what they did. You can go read about it from Frank over at 97.3 ESPN. They added left-handed minor league pitcher Braden Ogle from the Pirates. So far, that is it. So they went back to the Pirates and said, hey, we couldn't get Tyler Anderson from you. How about you give us this kid? So that's one. Two, according to reports, the Phillies are in on a lot of names, one of which is right-handed pitcher Kyle Gibson from the Rangers, and they are making a hard push to try to get another starter in here, that we know. I thought one of the more interesting things that I have read today has to do with Byron Buxton, the center fielder from the Minnesota Twins, who are having a disappointing season. Buxton's a guy who wants some big money and is having a great year, but he's constantly hurt. The Phillies are talking to the Twins about Buxton. They are one of many teams involved. Also, John Heyman saying that the Phillies are among the teams that have checked in on Ann Kennedy. And Philadelphia obviously is looking for starting pitching. They're looking for bullpen help. They need a center fielder. And today is the day. They have less than 2 hours to get something done. Will they get something done? Yes, I think they will. I think they're going to make multiple trades between now and 4 o'clock today. So you're going to want to keep it locked here to the Sports Bash, as we will have information. Bob Wankel at 4:40 will kind of recap the day for everybody when we bring them on for our weekly conversation to get ready for the weekend. They play the Pirates this weekend, a 3-game set in Pittsburgh with the Pirates, as the Phillies right now, this is a team that came back from 7 runs down yesterday. Give them some credit. They fought, and they got themselves in position now to have this weekend series with the Pirates where, hey, if the Phillies can get a sweep against a bad Pirates team, they're 38-64, this is where you can make up some ground. They're 3.5 back. The Phillies won yesterday in come-from-behind fashion, and the Mets lost. But keep this in mind. The Mets right now are dealing with a lot of injuries. The trade deadline is a big day for them too. So we will have to keep our eyes on both of these teams. As teams have been making moves all over the place. The Blue Jays, I thought, got a really improved by getting Jose Barrios from the Twins. I thought that was a good move, a guy that the Phillies probably could have looked into. But Ann Kennedy, in on him. Kyle Gibson, who used to be a Twin, in on him. This Major League Baseball deadline, we have less than 2 hours, which means right now Dave Dombrowski has got to be on that phone. He has got to be making calls. And one of the calls, as we mentioned, is Byron Buxton, who was out with a boxer's fracture in his hand, which kind of concerns me a little bit. This is a guy who's had a lot of injury problems. And to have him be maybe your biggest target, it's something to kind of keep under consideration, that even if you get him, what do you have to give up to get him? And when will he be ready to help you out? So we'll give out the number. We'll start with all that. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. That's the way to get in contact with us there. You can always open the free mobile app, tap the app, take the show on the go, and you can text us through the free mobile app. I like Jeff Bone is listening on the app. He says, you guys have some really good articles on your 97.3 app. Yes, thank you. We do. We have great writers, guys who do a great job of covering these teams, the Flyers, the Sixers, the Eagles, and the Phillies. And you can get all the insight and information if you just tap on the app. You'll get the same articles that are on the app, that are on the website, and you can take the app everywhere you go. So thank you, Jeff, for reading the app. We appreciate you listening over there. So the Sixers last night, there's that with no Simmons trade and the draft. The Phillies have the Major League Baseball trade deadline today. And if they make a move, we will certainly have you covered for that. And as I said, I expect the Phillies to make multiple moves today. I think they make multiple moves today, and I don't know that any of them are earth-shattering, but I think they will make multiple moves today. I think they will probably do something to benefit the bullpen and something to benefit the starting rotation. And an outside shot, they add a guy like Buxton to the lineup. You bring Byron Buxton into this lineup, I mean, he's a middle-of-the-lineup guy. So there's a lot of talk about Spencer Howard and if they should trade Spencer Howard. Josh just says yes. Here's what I'll tell you about Spencer Howard. If you can't figure out what you want to do with them, then you can't have him anymore. Right? Stop yo-yoing this poor guy. If you're not smart enough to figure out what you want to do with him, it's time to move on. Now, here's the problem. Ann Kennedy is under contract for 2 months. Are you going to trade Spencer Howard for Ann Kennedy, which is out there right now? Ann Kennedy is kind of a journeyman, right? Are you so soured on Spencer Howard that you are ready to give up on him for a 36-year-old pitcher who is having a really good year this year? A bullpen guy who really would help out in middle relief. He's not a closer. He's closing right now, but he has not been a closer in the past, but he is closing right now. I should say, he is not this lockdown closer that has been a traditional closer. He closed, I guess, 2 years ago with Kansas City. He has 46 career saves, 30 of them came in 2019, and 16 of them came this year. So you're not getting Trevor Hoffman to close games out here. But you would imagine that he would fill into the closer spot for the Phillies if you make the trade. So use trading Spencer Howard for 2 months of a closer, a 36-year-old guy. That's a tough one. See, if the Phillies had any brains, they would just say, we have Spencer Howard. Instead of trading for a closer, why don't we just try him out as a closer? But that would be too smart. Spencer Howard has proven, not only this season, but in the past, that he is talented enough to throw for 2 innings. For whatever reason, he doesn't have the stamina. He's had arm problems. He has blister problems. All of that stuff. For whatever reasons, he has not been able to be a competitive starting pitcher. But I have no problem with Spencer Howard in the role of closer. And I don't know why the Phillies are having to think about giving up on him instead of utilizing him in that role. You know, there have been a lot of great starting pitchers who have moved to the bullpen. They did it before the Phillies did. Brett Myers was a starter. He struggled. They moved him to closer. Got him to the playoffs. Mariano Rivera was a failed starter who became the best closer of all time. John Smoltz had arm problems. He was a great starter. They moved him to closer. Dennis Eckersley was a failed starter. They moved him to closer. He was pretty darn good. Have their closer. They just can't see the forest through the. And what they're doing with Spencer Howard is one of them. It's the trade deadline. We'll keep our eye on it. But Ann Kennedy, for 2 months of Ann Kennedy. Now, Kyle Gibson's an interesting story. Gibson was drafted by the Phillies. He's now 33 years old. He's a pretty good starting pitcher this year. 6-3, 2.87 ERA, 1.1 WHIP. That's very good. The contract situation, you have him here again next year. That one, to me, all right, I can trade Spencer Howard for Kyle Gibson because I'm getting him for this year, and then I'm getting him again for next year. Because if I have my mind set on Spencer Howard needs to be a starter, then maybe I don't value him as much. Me, personally, I'd say, let me see if Howard can close games for me. Why am I trading for a closer? I might have one right here. Why am I giving up assets in my organization to go get a closer? I have a guy that I haven't tried out yet. And then you might say, well, what if he can't do it? Look, is this team winning the World Series? No. I got that answer for you. No. But at least give the guy the opportunity to say, you know what? This is a role that right now I'm not ready for, but I can fulfill that role. I just don't understand why they don't even attempt it. If you're telling me Howard can get 2 guys back for me, Kennedy and Gibson, all right, maybe I take that opportunity. If it's a one-on-one thing, that's different. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And don't forget, you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So let's go over to football. 1, as we told you, Carson Wentz is out indefinitely. He goes under further testing for a foot injury that he suffered at the end of practice. Why is this mattering to us? People out there saying, don't care about Carson Wentz anymore. He's someplace else. Well, you better care because there's a clause in the contract that has to do with playing time. And if the playing time doesn't get met, the Eagles draft pick goes from a first rounder to a second rounder. And that's a big difference maker. So that foot injury is something to definitely keep an eye on. Definitely keeping an eye on the Carson Wentz injury situation. Despite the fact that if he doesn't eclipse 75% of the snaps, it's a second-round pick. So obviously, if Carson Wentz isn't ready to play, that is going to prohibit them from possibly getting to 75% of the snaps. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Definitely. Any potential impact on Wentz is critical to that trade. Critical to that trade. There's another clause in it. I think if it's 70% of the snaps, but they make the playoffs. So in other words, if he gets 75% of the snaps and they're 0-16, you get a first-round pick. If they only get 70% of the snaps, but he makes the playoffs, you get the first-round pick. So there's a lot there. What else happened at Eagles camp today? Well, busy day. I think there's great stories going on at Eagles camp. It's been a positive start to camp. Getting Steve Nelson in here, that has been a big start. Now, Devonta Smith today apparently had a great day. Just absolutely had a fantastic day at camp today. We'll talk to Andrew DeCecco a little bit later on the show just to kind of get his observations from camp today. But there's a couple things that stand out from the camp today that you kind of take a look at and say, man, this team has a chance to not be great, but be interesting. This team has a chance today to have to be some much more entertaining to watch. But today, by the way, no Brandon Graham, no Kerrigan, no Kelsey, Ertz. They did not do a lot today. Kind of a happy hour Friday for them too. Right? Everybody's just kind of taking the day off. But I want to kind of, you take a look at what happened at camp today, and you're looking around, and you say, man, some interesting developments with this Eagles team. One, Ryan Kerrigan talking about the left tackle spot. He said, look, both of those guys are going to be pretty damn good. And Kerrigan would know he faced both of them. But I'm interested to see when we talk to Jeff Kerr later tonight, which of those two guys has had the better of the left tackle position so far. Kerrigan, on the fact that they have a new head coach, said, I love the pace here. I love that things move quickly. We'll also talk to Sal Paolantonio today at 3 o'clock. Right? Sal Pal had a one-on-one conversation with Nick Sirianni, and some of the things that he talked about in those interviews, we'll get those for you coming up here in just a little bit. I do have the audio Sal Pal sent to me before it actually aired on the TV, so I have that audio ahead of everybody. And we'll give you a little insight on some of the stuff, because Sal kind of asked him about, hey, you're a first-time head coach. What is it going to be like being the guy that has to follow the one head coach who has won a Super Bowl here? Which I think some people, kind of forget about, is that this guy's replacing the only coach who has ever won a Super Bowl. So I have that audio coming up for you as well here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Let's get started on Happy Hour Friday. Busy show. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City today. Susie Hunter's Ballpark Tour continues. Sal Pal Friday. Happy Hour Friday. It's all right here for you. Brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan now open. Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Online, mattblattnissan.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. It looks like we have a trade, and the White Sox are finalizing a deal to acquire Craig Kimbrell from the Cubs. So he'll just go from Cubbies to Sox, north to south. Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. All right, so we got our first big trade. Craig Kimbrell is going from the Cubs to the Sox. We'll keep you posted. Nothing from the Phils so far. If something happens. By the way, the Yankees traded for Anthony Rizzo and Joey Gallo the last 48 hours, so they are making a move to try to get up the standings. Other trades have happened. Max Scherzer, we said yesterday, looks like he's going to the Padres. Nope, the Dodgers swooped in and took Scherzer and Trey Turner. How about that? Holy mackerel. And they, so they're going to get Scherzer and Trey Turner to the Dodgers. The Dodgers right now currently are a playoff team, but they're behind the Giants. So the Dodgers and Giants, they have a great rivalry out there. They're 3 back. Gabe Kapler's crew is 64-38, and the Giants sit at 62-42, 20 games over 500. They had Scherzer and Turner as they try to push down the line here. Mike, I totally agree with you regarding Howard. Ask one of your Phillies insiders, ask if one of your Phillies insiders asked the question at a presser. The guy has shown he's lights out for an inning. Yeah, I will. I'll talk to Bob about that. How come it's never been brought up that the Phillies try Spencer Howard in a closing role, an 8th inning role, a closer role, 8th inning role, back into the bullpen? I don't understand it. He's obviously showed he can perform in short bursts. You have to come to terms with the fact that maybe that's what he is. Maybe he is just a closer. And that's not horrible. Closers are good to have. They haven't been able to find anybody else to do it here. So if you just find one on your current roster, why would you go and try to trade for one? You might have one right under your damn nose. Mind-boggling to me. We'll have to keep refreshing on the feed to see if something happens with the Phillies today. So far, I got nothing for you. For those of you who are tuning in saying, hey, what do the Phillies do? So far, I got bupkis. I got nothing for you. Zippo. But still have an hour and a half. And their name is, look, I would be shocked if at 4 o'clock today, I have to tell you they did nothing. I'd be shocked. Absolutely shocked. Dave Dombrowski's been down this road before. Now, you might not be happy. You might not like what they end up doing, and I might agree with you. Can you imagine that if we all agreed together? That'd be a nice Kumbaya Happy Hour Friday. Can you imagine? The listeners and Mike Gill, they all agree. That would be a first. I actually look forward to this moment. Maybe Dombrowski shouldn't make a trade. Then we could all agree that he had a bad day today. Jalen Heels is watching the show on YouTube. Says, feeling very glad today that injury-prone Wentz is not with this team. Out indefinitely with a foot injury 2 days into camp. Dubious to receive that first-round pick, but at least he isn't out here. Yeah, he hurt his foot apparently yesterday at practice, so it wasn't something that he went there with. He hurt his foot at practice for them yesterday, and it has caused him to be out indefinitely now. But you're right, that first-round pick situation now looms. It certainly looms. Thanks for the message, Jalen. Appreciate that as well. Keep them coming. 609-403-0973 on the text board. 609-403-0973. Nick Sirianni spoke with Sal Paolantonio. Sal will join me in a half an hour. And he asked him a lot of interesting questions regarding the makeup of this roster. In other words, they have a lot of veteran players mixed in with a lot of young players. This team is kind of devoid of talent in the middle, but they have a lot of players in the areas of veteran, top of the roster, making a lot of money. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, that group of guys, Zach Ertz, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson. And then you have the bottom end of the spectrum. And I'm not saying they're bad. It's just there's a lot of veterans and there's a lot of young. There's not a lot of that middle ground. The guys like the Derek Barnetts. Right now you got Miles Sanders in his 3rd season. Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Couple observations from training camp today. And it is the fact that what I understand from talking to people up there is that the offense looks sloppy today. That the offense really looked sloppy today. And that's from a couple of sources up that way that were at practice today and said, man, they really looked to the point that Sirianni actually had to stop practice. Got pretty animated out there. The other thing that I thought, Jalen Hurts, I said, what are you seeing from Hurts? And very up and down, very good, bad, kind of like not putting his mark out there just yet. Had a nice throw to Dallas Goedert today for a touchdown. I think he had 4 touchdown passes to Devonta Smith, but threw on high, kind of went over the hands of Greg Ward, but seemingly is looking pretty good for the most part. Basically, what I was told was, looks pretty good, not great, but looks pretty good. He's not looking like, if you remember last year, people were like, man, Wentz doesn't look very good. Davion Taylor, we talked about him yesterday with Adam Kaplan. And what I've been told is he is standing out on the field. His athleticism is definitely eye-opening. That he has done a really good job in coverage and that they are actually giving him some first-team looks. Davion Taylor is a guy that none of us really had a lot of expectations for, right? We kind of looked at it as, oh, another bad Howie Roseman pick. But I'm being told that they really like, Jonathan Gannon really likes his athleticism and that they have put him in a lot of great positions on this defensive side of the ball to in pass coverage. Excuse me. Another guy that I've heard some good things about is the rookie Zack Mcpherson. And, you know, sometimes you get these guys that aren't great in college and they get to the pros, they develop late, they kind of, you know, they just are late developing players. And from what I was told about McPherson was his awareness has been very impressive. Has a very good awareness of the field, his surroundings, and where he's at. Now, yesterday, I think with Adam Kaplan, it might have been Wednesday with Mosher, we talked about Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett. They are kind of rotating as the starting defensive ends. And from what I hear, Josh Sweat has been the more impressive guy of the bunch, and that he, as Adam Kaplan told us yesterday, sounds like he is going to be the guy that's getting the most, getting more of the snaps, I should say. So a lot of good stuff is coming out of camp so far. Tim McManus tweeted a little while ago, a couple hours ago, said Nick Sirianni stopped practice for an hour. He gathered the team to point out that their performance was not up to snuff. He saw a teaching moment that applies to the season. How do you respond after a slow start? Kerrigan said the finish to practice was crisper. So there you go. From, I guess, the people that I was talking up to are not lying. Sirianni had to stop the practice today and was not very happy. By the way, a couple injuries at practice today for the Eagles. Jalen Reagor was limited. Brandon Brooks, day-to-day. Sayamala, week-to-week with a hamstring. And a maintenance day for the guys I mentioned before. Cox, Ertz, Graham, Johnson, Kelsey, Kerrigan, Slay, and Rodney McLeod. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. All right, so we got the trade deadline still to come. At 4 o'clock today is the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City will give us his thoughts on that. Also, we have Sal Palantonio at 3 o'clock today. Major League Baseball trade deadline is exactly 1 hour, 25 minutes from now. So stick around. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. 239, big trade in baseball. It's Craig Kimbrell going to the White Sox for a massive haul. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is back for Happy Hour Friday. His must-win column is in today's Press of Atlantic City. You can get it at pressofatlanticcity.com. And, of course, we got so much going on. This is, a unique time of year here, Mike. We've got the training camp open. We've got hockey's free agency opening. There was a lot of stuff happening there. We've got the draft last night. We've got the trade deadline in baseball today. Were you at the Phillies double dip yesterday?
Yes, I was. All, 15 innings of it, yes.
So it looked pretty bleak there. And I guess as bleak as everything looked last week, here we sit on the Friday of the trade deadline, 3.5 games back, which means Dave Dombrowski better be on the phone right now, right?
I agree 110%. You look at what the Phillies offense has done the past couple of days. Obviously the rally yesterday, they've been down 4 runs or more since Saturday. They've been down 4 runs or more in 4 of their 6 games they played, and they've come back to win 2 of those games. This team has hit since July 1st. The lineup has produced like it's supposed to. The Phillies haven't made the postseason since 2011. They're 3.5 games back. They're chasing a flawed team in the New York Mets. Dave Dombrowski should be on the phone right now trying to get the Phillies some starting pitching and maybe some bullpen help to support this offense.
All right. I don't know if you saw the trade for Kimbrell, but you can't give up that much for Craig Kimbrell, right?
Yeah, I don't think the Phillies can combat that. I'm not expecting the Phillies to get a guy like a Craig Kimbrell. I'm not expecting them to get a Scherzer or a Trey Turner. I think the guy that they tried to get on Tuesday, Tyler Anderson, I think this guy, Kyler Gibson of Texas that they've been connected to, that's the type of guy we're looking for. I'm not, again, I think I said this the other day, I'm not asking for the moon. I'm not asking for, Steve Carlton, Bob Gibson. I'm asking for a pitcher who can go out there and throw 5 or 6 innings. And when he leaves, you're either up by a run or you're down by a run. You have a chance to win. They can't keep going on, being down 6-0 or 7-0 heading into the bottom of the third and expect to keep winning games like that. It's just not going to happen.
Right. Now, they are apparently in on Buxton in center field. If I told you they got Buxton and nothing else, is that a successful day?
No, because I want the pitchers. I mean, I don't think there's a problem with the lineup right now. The lineup is hitting. The lineup is producing. Yeah, is Buxton an upgrade over Odubel Herrera? Sure. But that's not going to put you over the top. They need pitching. They can't continue to look up at the scoreboard and be down 7-0 going into the bottom of the third, 6-2 in the second inning. That's just not going to work. To me, it's all about the pitching. The position players are fine for right now,
Right.
But pitching is what you need.
If they don't make a trade today, is that a failure or is there a message there?
I think it's a failure because they've got a shot at – you're talking about a team that hasn't been in the playoffs since 2011, and they're 3.5 games out. Now, if they were chasing the Dodgers, if they were chasing the Milwaukee Brewers, but they're chasing the Mets, and I watch the Mets as much as anybody. They don't hit. They can't score. It seems like every game they score 0 or 1 run. Lindor is out to who knows when with an injury. DeGrom is out to who knows when with an injury. They have pitching issues themselves. They're throwing Rich Hill and Jarrett Eichhoff are in the rotation. They're a flawed baseball team. They can be caught. And again, as I said before, the Phillies are 3.5 games out. Who are they to turn up their nose and say, we're not going to go for a division title?
I agree. I mean, to me, and don't you feel, you're up there enough to probably have a beat on this, that Dombrowski is the right guy to be in this situation.
Yeah, I think he is. And I think his past history says he's a guy who would agree with us in these situations. He is a guy who is going to be aggressive in these situations. The question is, how aggressive are they willing to be? You hear some reports on Twitter that players are talking about, teams are talking to them about Alec Boehm, about some of their higher level prospects. I kind of agree with his sort of, holding on to those guys. But there's no reason why you can't go get, a Kyle Gibson, a Tyler Anderson type guy to just improve the pitching, and give your offense a chance to do what it's done pretty well since July 1st.
Okay, couple things here. There's some talk that Spencer Howard is part of the talks with the Rangers for Kyle Gibson and Ann Kennedy. Do you have any problem with that?
No, I have no problem with dealing Spencer Howard, especially because I believe you would have Gibson through next season at a reasonable contract. And to me, Spencer Howard, it's always something with Spencer Howard. He looks great for 2 or 3 innings. Then he runs to first base. He's exhausted. He looks great for 2 or 3 innings. A callus breaks and he falls apart. It's always something. So I have no issues with giving away Spencer Howard for a guy. The important part here is Gibson is not a rental. You would have Gibson through next season. He's Correct. A good pitcher. He might be better than Spencer Howard ever will be. I would do that deal.
Has anybody inquired why the Phillies do not look at Howard as maybe a back end of the bullpen guy?
Well, I think at a point in the future they might, but I think right now they're trying to develop him as a starting pitcher, and to do that you've got to get his innings up, right? He only threw 20-something innings last year. You've got to get him close to 100 innings so eventually he can make that leap. So I think that's what they're trying to do this year, build up his innings. The other issue right now with him putting him in the bullpen is he's never pitched on back-to-back days in his life, I don't think. So that would obviously be another issue because bullpen guys have to go back-to-back. And, you don't want to hamstring yourself there.
All right. So that is obviously Howard would be one of their bigger names that would be on the move. You're saying you'd be okay in that situation. Do we know anything about Eflin?
Eflin right now is kind of a mystery, basically. We spoke to him in the dugout a couple of days ago, and he's kind of still, he had a bullpen session or threw up the mound on Sunday. The knee didn't feel right. So originally they thought he was going to be back in 10 days. Now they don't know. And Eflin said it's kind of a little bit of a mystery. He's got that tendonitis in the knee. And unfortunately, the only thing in that kind of helps that, right, is time. So he kind of indicated, and I've heard people talk about in the past, that it might bother you on a Tuesday. All of a sudden you wake up Wednesday and it's gone. It's fine. So it's still, as he said, still barking, and there is no timetable yet on his return. And it's getting to the point where he's missing enough starts where he might have to go out and pitch a game or two in the minor leagues before you put him back on the mound. So not having him sort of raises the urgency to go get a pitcher.
All right, let's shift over to the NBA draft last night. Ben Simmons, of course, Mike, was a big part of it. He did not get moved, and there was very little talk about him during the draft last night. What's the message there?
Well, I think, the Sixers are going to try to move him. I just don't think the Sixers had the draft capital last night to try to move him, basically. They don't have the picks to try to entice another team to take him. So, we got about 2 weeks before NBA free agency starts. I think in these 2 weeks you would hear the Simmons stuff ramp up, because I believe if the Sixers were to make a deal, the team that both gets him and the Sixers would like to go into free agency kind of knowing what they had and knowing the pieces that they would like to fit around him. So I don't think there's any message there. I just think it's a complicated deal that, on a draft night, you're just not going to make, basically.
It just seemed, I guess, Daryl Morey on the call last night just seemed like he was almost out of gas. It was almost as if he was on the phone trying, couldn't get anything done. It was just dejected by the fact that he had to answer a question about why Simmons is still here.
Well, I think he knew he was going to be asked, and he did politely. It was a very polite press conference. I think Howard Eskin asked the question politely. Daryl Morey answered it politely that he wasn't going to answer it, and he was going to focus on the 3 players that they brought in. I do think, though, the report from Keith Pompey yesterday surprised me with the Golden State. Wiggins, Weissman, a 7, a 14, and 2 picks. I mean, I don't know what the Sixers are thinking of me. One word pops into my head when I heard that offer, and that was delusional. I mean, if you're trading Simmons, it's got to be the other way. You're trading Simmons, picks, Maxey, Thibault to get a star. You're not going to, get that many things back from the Golden State Warriors. So I didn't really understand, the Sixers' way of thinking there. But, hey, shoot for the moon. If you don't get it, adjust, basically.
Well, so you're saying you would have traded Ben Simmons for Wiggins. I get the picks part of it too, but Andrew, because they need players that can help them now, right?
Well, I think it surprised me on both ways. One, if I'm Golden State, I don't give up that much for Ben Simmons. And 2, if I'm the Sixers, how does Andrew Wiggins and Weissman help me beat the Atlanta Hawks next season, or the Milwaukee Bucks, or the Brooklyn Nets next season? They don't. So I was surprised by that deal. what the Sixers were asking for Ben Simmons. I wasn't surprised Golden State said no. I would have hung up the phone in 5 seconds. But I was also surprised that the Sixers weren't thinking more immediately, thinking about getting a guy who can score in the fourth quarter and help Joel Embiid win an NBA title. Wiggins and Weissman are not those guys.
No, I agree with that. That's why I think the Wiggins thing, and this is the whole, like I was talking about this yesterday, Mike, is we're so enamored with scoring. Wiggins can score more than Simmons, but do you want Wiggins on your team? Right. I don't.
It's just not sheer points. Where I guess the word would be shot creators is kind of what we're looking for. We're looking with guys at 106, fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go that can come down and break down an opposing defense off the dribble to either get a shot for himself or a shot for his teammates or make a good decision in a pick and roll. And obviously anybody who's ever seen Wiggins play, again, I think Wiggins is, he was the number one pick in the draft, unrealistic high standards. I think he's a nice player, but you want to see Wiggins with the ball in his hands down 1 in the fourth quarter against the Milwaukee Bucks next May? I don't.
Hey, wasn't it winless for Wiggins?
Right, that was the chant, basically, and you got lucky because, Embiid broke his foot, and away you go.
That's essentially what happened. You're right, because Embiid probably would have been the first pick.
Right.
But Cleveland in that draft said, we can't draft a guy who's going to miss time, and that's what, Milwaukee passed on him to take, Jabari Parker?
Jabari Parker, correct, obviously a decision that I bet they would like that. Well, they are an NBA champion, so it worked out for them. So.
That's true. What'd you think of what the Knicks did last night?
I liked what they did. They didn't panic. They kind of traded down. They got the guard from Houston who looked great against Rutgers. Now, Rutgers doesn't play in the NBA, but I like what they did last night. I like, so many times in the past, I've watched the Knicks sort of panic and make deals and sign people and just try to, fix a 20-year problem in one night. They seem to be taking a more measured approach, and they continued that last night. So I liked what they did last night, in getting the guard from Houston.
All right. Mike's column Must Win appears in the Press of Atlantic City, which today says the Eagles should steer clear of Deshaun Watson. Howie Roseman was asked kind of about Watson the other day. They didn't mention it by name, but they said there's a quarterback out there. So you don't think they should get involved in that at all?
Yeah, I don't think so at all for a couple of reasons. First of all, the uncertainty around his situation. I can't believe he's still in an NFL camp. I mean, 22 civil lawsuits, 10 criminal complaints. Who knows how that's going to play out? And two, I really believe this, organizations should stand for more than about, winning and where they stand in where they are in the standings. Even if, who knows how these accusations are going to play out. But even if he's cleared of everything, I think as a football team, you've got to examine every detail and decide, is this the type of man we want on our team? And, I just think it's way, way, way too early in the process to be making those decisions. So right now, it's a hard no for me. I don't know how any team trades for him. Honestly, I don't even know how he's in Houston Texans training camp right now, to be honest with you.
Well, Mike, I'll tell you, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Here's the one thing that, for whatever reason, he is not given a deposition until February of next year. So does that indicate that he's going to be able to play this season? I don't know. The NFL has suspended like Zeke Elliott for multiple games without being tried for anything. So they could step in, but he is not given a deposition until February after the season's over.
Exactly. But to me, that just says, I can't have him on my team with this cloud and what he has been accused of. I just can't do it. I want my team, my franchise to be, obviously everybody wants your team to win, but I would like my team to be about more than just that. And with what this guy is accused of, I don't see how any NFL team can have him on the field right now. I don't know how he's in NFL training camp. In other sports, I don't. If he was a baseball player, I don't think he'd be in spring training or on a roster right now. The NBA would be another matter. I mean, the sheer volume of the complaints is alarming. And like I said in the column, I kind of compared the case to Adubel Herrera and Michael Vick. Those guys were at the end of the legal process, and those guys had quote unquote served time or been punished for their actions, and we're now beginning the rehabilitative process, which is great. Deshaun Watson is nowhere near that. So to me, it's a hard no, and I can't even believe, honestly, that it's a point of discussion. People kind of acting like he has a knee injury or something. It's so much more than that.
Real quick, some breaking news: the Mets have finalized a deal to get Javier Baez from the Cubs.
Well, that's big, right? Because the Mets' big problem is hitting the baseball, right? So you get Baez in there. He's a guy who can hit. You got Lindor at shortstop, who has kind of struggled, who is out with an injury right now. Baez can fit in there. He can also shift around the infield. He can play third. He can play second. He's been in big spots before. He's kind of exactly what the Mets need. So if you're Dave Dombrowski and you're hearing that news, you better start making some more phone calls, because the Mets just got significantly better with the addition of Javier Baez.
Apparently, the Cubs asked for Mick Abel, and they were turned down from the Phillies.
Well, again, I can sort of see that, but it's hard. Mick Abel, who knows what he's going to be? Javier Baez is a different sort of guy. You're getting right there. So the Mets take a big step forward with Baez, and puts a lot of pressure on the Philadelphia Phillies there to respond.
Hour and 5 minutes left to go. Mike McGarry at AC Press McGarry. Check out his piece and his reasoning why the Eagles should steer clear of Deshaun Watson over at the Press of Atlantic City. And, of course, his must-win column appears Fridays in the Press. Mike's back on Monday to take a look back at all the stuff that happened this weekend. Seems like it could be a crazy one. We'll see what the Phillies do. Mike, take care, man.
All right, we'll see you down the road. Thanks.
All right, Mike McGarry, everybody, from the Press of Atlantic City. They're sports columnists here on the Sports Bash. He joins us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on the Sports Bash on 97.3. Sal Paolantonio joins me next. All right, here we go on a happy hour Friday. It's a Sal Pal Friday. Sal Pal Antonio will join me here in just a moment as the Eagles are back at camp. It all feels right, doesn't it? ESPN senior national correspondent Sal Pal Antonio, Eagles camp today. He had a chance to go one-on-one with the new head coach, Nick Sirianni, and I got an opportunity to check out that audio and video before anybody else got to. And we'll talk a little bit about that and the Eagles at camp today with Sal Pal Antonio, ESPN senior national correspondent, right now on a Sal Pal Friday. It all feels right in the world. Football and Sal Pal are back on the Sports Bash. How are you, my friend?
Mike, I'm great. I'm doing great. And it was a really interesting day today at Eagles training camp.
Well, we'll get into the particulars in just a minute. I do want to get into the particulars of your conversation with Nick Sirianni. And really, I thought it was a pretty poignant question. When you look at this roster, Sal, you've got a lot of guys who make a lot of money and who are older veterans. And at the other end of the spectrum, you got a lot of newcomers. There's not a lot of middle ground guys here. So how is Nick Sirianni kind of balancing his message with this crew that he has?
You know, I think he's trying to stick to 6 core values in terms of his approach so that it encompasses everybody across the spectrum. And like you said, it's heavy on both ends. We have some aging veterans. You don't have a lot of cap space to bring people in. That's why they were very quiet, mostly quiet on free agency front. And then you have a core of players. They had 9 draft picks this past spring. And you have a core of players like Devonta Smith, like Jalen Reagor in his second year, like Landon Dickerson, who's going to be called upon, if healthy, to take over on some of these in some of these older offensive line positions. So you have an interesting mix, and he's trying to keep it the same for everybody. Although it's pretty interesting, Darius Slay had the day off today as well as Zach Ertz. So I think he understands. Mike, and this is something that you and I have talked about a lot in the past couple of months, when you're starting camp in July and you have to go all the way through a 17-game schedule and your last game is on January 9th, that's a really long way to keep guys interested, to keep guys healthy, to keep guys motivated. But let me go back, to keep guys healthy. And I think all these head coaches are realizing that dreaded term load management that they use in the NBA is going to be all too real this year in the National Football League.
Yeah, we already saw Carson Wentz is out indefinitely with foot injury. He hurt yesterday in the first practice. So that could impact the Eagles if he's not ready to play, that whole snap thing. But your message right there, just a little thing in practice and his foot indefinitely. So the balance of keeping these veterans, the balance of his message, too, like how he talks to these different guys. You're trying to teach these young guys one thing. You can't talk to them the same way you talk to Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, right?
Yes, and if you listen to the entire interview, and a lot of it will be on Channel 6 tonight, all over the Delaware Valley, you'll be able to get down at the shore. It'll be on ESPN tonight and tomorrow. He really has emphasized, and this is the first time he has said this, he's really emphasized to the entire team that, we have guys on this team that won a Super Bowl, that have done it, that have won a championship. Lean on them. If you have a question about something, if you need experience on an issue, if you're not sure about something, go talk to them. Lean on that resource. And you know what? He didn't say it, Mike, but I got the sense that he was one of those people willing to do that and has done that. Talk to Lane Johnson, Brent. Hey, talk to Joe Flacco. I mean, Joe Flacco is as old as some of these coaches and has much more NFL experience on the field. And that stood out today. That really stood out. Flacco he looks so good. He really does. And I'm not suggesting that Flacco's going to be the starter. I'm just saying that Flacco, is Flacco the cannon for an arm, the quiet, steady, tall guy in the pocket and in the shotgun? Obviously, he didn't have great seasons at all with the Jets or the Broncos, and that's the reason why he was available. But boy, oh boy, when you put him next to Jalen Hurts right now, he looks like he's way ahead of him.
Right. I'm interested, 'cause as you mentioned, as you discussed with Nick Sirianni in that video people will see on SportsCenter tonight, which is, hey, you're the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. This isn't the offensive coordinator job in Indianapolis. Like, this is a different thing. Like, does he realize already how different this job is from other NFL positions?
Yeah, he told me the story about how he was down the shore. And he was in a hotel trying to have a vacation with his family, his wife and family. There was a wedding going on. And one of the groomsmen noticed him and just said, hey, stay right here. And Nick says, all right, I'll stay right here. And before you know it, the entire wedding party's with Nick Sirianni for 25 minutes, taking pictures, posing with the bride and groom, getting all kinds of advice from these guys about, hey, run the ball, do this, do that, run this play, do this, do that. A bunch of Eagles chants. I said, yeah, it's intense here. He goes, yeah, intense.
Right. And he leaves it with, I know what I signed up for. And that's the question. Like, does he know what he signed up for? Because it's one thing to see it, but training camp and then that first game where something doesn't go right. I think the first press conference on Wednesday, Sal, he had questions coming from all over the place. Different, just a different setting. And he seems to be handling and doing a good job because, as you asked him, you're following the only coach who has ever won a Super Bowl here. Like, how does he take that all in?
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? It's unprecedented. It's history making. Doug Peterson was the only guy to win a Super Bowl in this particular town where the intensity level is pins the meter all of the time. So, yeah, he can say, I know what I signed up for. And he can understand that an NFL head coaching job is only one of 32 in America. He can say that and get all that. But like you said, Michael, when the losses pile up, and they're going to pile up, it's going to get pretty hot. It's going to be like, you're in the Luna Margin re-entering the atmosphere back in the 60s. It's not going to be that soft Bezos landing that you saw.
All right, Sal Pal Friday. Let's look at some of the stories. They get Steve Nelson over the weekend. How big is that in terms? I said, Sal, see if you agree. They don't win 4 or 5 extra games because of him, but they can compete in 4 and 5 extra games now.
Yeah, and he's playing starting right corner right away. And they needed one, and that allows Avonte Maddox to move inside where he belongs. He can't play outside. So today he was at left cornerback. Slay was off. And that allows also Jonathan Gannon to really begin to find a structure to the back end of the defense, right? Michael, there's 3, in my opinion, 3 major issues, and I use major twice for a reason. Number 1 is the health and age of the offensive line and who's starting at left tackle. Those are big issues.
Yeah. Agree.
Big. Number 2 is let's see how you're structuring the back end of your defense. And when I mean back end, I'm talking about the 3 corners. You're putting 3 corners on the line of scrimmage. You're playing 5 defensive backs. You're in nickel most of the time now in the NFL because of formations that are thrown at you with extra wide receivers and with tight ends who can run like a train. So you got to have 5 guys all the time. The back end of that defense, the structure of it, the way it works, the strategy, the approach, the tactics, the coaching, the athletic ability, all very unsettled. Extremely unsettled. You got time to figure it out, but the one thing that you can't do, and this is so important this year in the National Football League, and I'm going to harp on this when I talk to you every Friday, is you can't overdo it with these guys. It's a long season. This team's got 2 joint practices. We still have 6 weeks of practice before they put on the pads week 1. You can't overdo it. You're not going to invent this team in July. You're just not. And coaching staffs want to do that. They want to hit the fast forward button and say, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And, we're all settled here. We're doing this and we're doing that. Before you know it, you wear the guys out.
Yeah.
So that's number 2. And, Mike, number 3 is the passing game. If you can't throw the football, with explosive plays, with efficient plays, with productive plays. If you can't throw the football to get yourself out of trouble on third down, if you can't throw the football down the field outside the hash marks, if you can't throw the football to control the middle of the field like Brady and Rodgers do, and if you can't throw the football in the red zone, then you're not scoring points and you're not winning games in the National Football League. And right now, it is a major, again, I'm using the word twice, and this is not a Kurt Vonnegut novel. This is major issue.
A couple, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the offensive line, and Roseman kind of hinted at this the other day. Like, they feel they have, if healthy, a very good offensive line, and you wonder how much that will make or break the success of this offense. You would think it would make this offense a heck of a lot better healthy. Obviously, we saw the problems last year. But one guy who I want to get your thoughts on is what's going to happen with Ertz and that whole situation.
Yeah, that's a big fat don't know. I think he's out there. He's he was off today. We can interpret that a million ways. I asked to talk to Zach Ertz today, and I was declined. I don't know if he talked to the general media. Was there anything on Twitter? I didn't see it about him talking to the general media today.
Nope.
Because I asked for Ertz. So as soon as I was declined, and then I saw him not in pads and on the sideline watching, I'm thinking, what? Trade in the works. And they don't want to get him hurt, right? So
there was a lot of veterans today that had a maintenance day. So he was one of them. I mean,
yes. Yes, he was, and so, but he's in a different category because of all the trade rumors.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no question.
So, yeah, so that's what I first thought about Ertz, that there was, something going on behind the scenes. Now, the day has transpired pretty much. Nothing has happened. So, and it's a Friday afternoon. I think right now a lot of teams. I'm telling you, Mike, I was in Pittsburgh for 2 days. On Wednesday, Mike Tomlin had him at Heinz Field. There was no breeze. It was 95 degrees in the shade. It was sweltering hot. They were on the field at Heinz Field in the bowl, hitting full pads.
Right.
And I said to Mike Tomlin, I did a one-on-one interview that ran with him yesterday on NFL Live. Great guy, by the way, just absolutely great coach. And I said to him, Mike, it's July 28th. You got to get to January 9th. He goes, we all understand that. We get it. And, we're going to have to manage that. He goes, I have several different schedules that I've worked out in terms of things and how they will change. And you look at the Indianapolis Colts now, right? 11-5 last year. Make a big play for Carson Wentz. Frank Reich gets COVID. Terrible news. Terrible. We all love Frank Reich. And we were rooting for Carson Wentz. I mean, everybody was, right? For a lot of different reasons, even selfish reasons. But, we want people to land on their feet and do well. And for him to get injured again, it's terrible. It's just terrible. And now you're looking at the division and you're saying, Jacksonville's not doing anything. Texans are a mess. The Colts have lost their quarterback and their head coach has COVID. It's the Titans. It's a matter of attrition and survival in the NFL right now. It really is.
You're darn right about that. Let me get your first impressions. You're on the field today because I saw Sal Pal ESPN Instagram to get his instant reaction. You had the hat on and the glasses, cost you $1 million. You look great. And in the background is Jalen Hurts, as you mentioned, Joe Flacco. But how Devonta Smith, how does he look? Because everybody talked about how skinny and small he is. In person, does he look like he belongs?
Catches everything. Let me repeat that because it's an important thing for Eagles fans to know. Eagles fans have gone through a lot of permutations and problems and angst about wide receivers who drop footballs all the time. This guy, Devonta Smith, catches everything, has total body control, knows how to start and stop his body, put his hands in a position to catch the football all the time. It's amazing, Mike, amazing.
Good to hear, right? Good to hear that because the other first-round pick from last year is struggling to get out in the field, right?
Yeah. So, Devonta Smith, Total real deal. But again, like you said, he's not the biggest dude in the world, and he's got to last to January 9th coming out of college.
Yeah.
We used to talk about the rookies hitting the wall, remember?
Always.
Right? That wall just got a lot higher.
Yeah, extra game as
that wall just got a lot higher.
Extra game,
got a lot
17
higher.
games. So, obviously, we're back. Football's here. The Eagles are back. They've got their first preseason game on the 12th. And that is going to be quickly approaching. The left tackle, as you mentioned, that will be something to keep an eye on. Is there any – it seems that it's 50-50 right now, right? It's Mailata and Dillard, and there's no clear-cut anything right there right now.
No, there isn't. And next week, you know what, on the Mike Gill Show at 3 p.m., next Friday, I will be in Canton, Ohio for the induction of the Pro Football Hall of Fame of Harold Carmichael, Philadelphia Eagles.
How about it?
Steve Sable, Mount Laurel, New Jersey, NFL Films. And I'm going to give you a full report on the first preseason game of the Cowboys and the Steelers next Thursday night, which I will cover live for ESPN. And you'll hear all about it on your show, 3 p.m. Friday. We got a deal?
I got it, and I'm all in for that. And Sal Pal ESPN on Instagram to get all the little nuggets before then. And, of course, Sal Pal Fridays. Another football season is here. All right, Sal, enjoy the last couple of days of summer.
No, man. It's works. Summer's over for me. I'm working.
Summer's
I'm
over.
like you. You're always working. I'm working now, baby.
Yeah,
and I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. You think 29 NFL
years.
Seasons, 29 training camps. And I'm, if I make it to 30, I'll be on the Mike Gill Show, I hope.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
Thanks.
Sal Palantonio here on the Sports Bash. Sal Pal Fridays are back. Football's back. He just said it. We're all done. He's done working. Now, I got some time off coming up, but that's not because I'm taking time off. That's because the team I'm coaching is going to the World Series. And if you guys out there are kind enough to help out, you can donate. Go to our website, 973ESPN.com, and we have all the details on fundraising that you can help the team out. You can Venmo donations. There's a fundraiser coming up next Saturday. We'll get you details. It's all on the website, 973ESPN.com. The Atlantic Shore 13-year-olds are going to the World Series. They could use your help. It would be very helpful. It is an expensive undertaking to get the entire team there. So anybody that wants to just help out, say, hey, you know what? I want to donate and help that team out. You could do so. Just go to the website, and all the information is on there. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to do it. If you're watching the show on video, you can see at the bottom of the screen the information for the fundraiser, and you can make a small donation. Hey, when we come back, the Phillies have made a trade, and I would say it is a somewhat, I don't want to say major trade, but their top prospect, one of them, is no longer here. I got the details next. All right, 324 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. I'm Mike Gill. Thanks to Sal Paolantonio, who joined us here on the Sports Bash every Friday, as you know, Sal Pal Fridays. And Fridays in the summer, we've been going around the country. Susie Hunter is spending the summer traveling to every Major League Baseball ballpark. She's raising money for an amazing organization, the Boys and Girls Club of America. You can donate. She'll give you the details. And since we last talked, because I was off last week, she has got to backpack around, 4 or 5, I think, different ballparks since the All-Star game. So it has been a heck of a 2 weeks for you, Susie. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me on during this prime real estate, too. This is like the last hour of the trade deadline. So, thank you for checking in with me.
Well, the Phillies made a trade.
I know. It's wild. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. You can do that the rest of the time you're here. But hey, I've been all over. I think, I was still in Denver last time I talked to you, but I've been to Minnesota. I've seen the Cubs, and I just left Cleveland. So I've been all over.
All right, so let's talk about that. You went from Denver, as many people who have been listening to this segment, you started in the Northeast, New York, Philly, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Atlanta, Tampa, Miami, went out to Texas, Houston, Texas, Denver for the All-Star game. Washington was in there as well. I forgot them. Pittsburgh. And then you left Denver and went to where?
I went to Minnesota after Denver. That was a nice long drive. So I went to a game there and then immediately booked it over to Chicago, got to see the Cubs. Which I'd never been to Wrigley Field.
Wow. So you're going to have to tell me about that. But I want to hear about Target Field because I've heard good things. Now, I was in Minnesota for the Super Bowl. I saw the outside of the stadium, but obviously didn't get to go to a game there. But I hear very good things about Target Field.
Oh, it's awesome. So I'd actually been there about 9 years ago because I have friends who are from Minnesota, but it was really cool to go back. Here's the thing they have that I think every ballpark should have. They have this in a couple of different spots, but it's a big directory, almost like a mall would have, but it's like, the different kinds of foods that you would be looking for at a park. So it's like, if you need vegetarian, if you are looking for a dessert type thing, if you're looking for cheese, you can just find it on there and it'll show you where it is in the ballpark. And every park should have this, especially now that we have so many foods. Now,
did any of the nachos at this particular ballpark usurp the nachos in Denver?
No, they did not even close. But there's a lot of Minnesota has a lot of sausage, that kind of stuff, a lot of cheese curds. So you just have to read the room when you go to some of these parks.
So Minnesota obviously is off the list now. All right, now you go to Chicago. Now you did not go White Sox. You only went Cubs.
Yeah, the White Sox were in town when I was in Chicago. So
what are you going to go back to Chicago now?
I have to go to Chicago twice because it's very rare for them to be in town at the same time. They are later in September, but I can't for my road trip around, the one weekend they're in town at the same time. So I have to go back to Chicago again. That's fine though, because I had so much fun in Chicago, but Wrigley was awesome. And it was
also. So this is your first time at Wrigley. All right. So you got to really that is one of the experiences of baseball. You've got to tell people then, did it meet your expectations? What were some of the uniqueness and cool things because everybody I talk to that's been to Wrigley, it feels like everyone has something different they love about it.
It was so beautiful. I just love the brick. I love how old it feels. It definitely reminded me a lot of Fenway. It was so freaking cool. The ivy, seeing that in real life. I loved it. It was really cool.
Now, I was there, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. They've done a lot of work on that field. I mean, you got video scoreboards now. That was never up there. There's a lot happening. But did you get to experience Wrigleyville outside the stadium?
I think that was maybe my favorite part. It was so hot out that day. It was a day games all weekend. So it was about 1 million degrees, I think. But we went to Cubby Bear after the game.
There you go.
And it was wild. It was so much fun. Made a ton of friends. So I think Wrigleyville was maybe my favorite part of my trip.
Yeah, Wrigleyville, the Cubby Bear, which is outside. I think I was telling you, it's literally you walk right outside and you go right into the entrance. It is a pretty unique experience. Now, the ballpark concourse is very small, very tight, but now where did you sit at Wrigley Field?
So I was on the first base side. I was covered. So I was in like the 200s.
Gotcha.
So
Not in the outfield.
I was not in the outfield. No, it was 90 plus degrees. So I think I would have actually fried if I was out in the outfield.
So Minnesota, Chicago Cubs, and then you go to Cleveland. Mm-hmm. So Cleveland, when we used to do my trip, one stadium every year, that was the first stadium that we had gone to. But I did not go on the trip that year, so I have never been there before. So how was Cleveland? Give us a little background on that place.
I loved Cleveland. It might be one of my favorite stops on this trip. The park was awesome. Great food, great atmosphere. The parts around the park, I think, are so pretty, like lots of really old buildings. I wanted to do an architecture tour while I was there, so I was like ready to nerd out on Cleveland. But I really enjoyed my time. I enjoyed the city. People there were very nice to me. I liked it a lot.
So of any of these three, I'm imagining Wrigley Field is your favorite, but it sounds like you really enjoyed Minnesota and Cleveland. But Wrigley's number one of these three?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
The three that you went to, Wrigley Field has to stand out the most, right? That's your favorite of these three.
Absolutely. It's so historic. And it was so beautiful. It was a really cool experience.
Now, when you're going to Cleveland, if you follow Susie on Twitter at the Susie Hunter, there was a unique experience where a gentleman caught a home run ball on his way into the stadium.
I've never seen anything like this. So I had gone to the game the night before, and then I waited for the ticket prices to drop to get my tickets for the day game the next day. So I was like, oh man, like look at me getting to the game late. Oh well, I'll deal with it. And of course, as we're walking in, Franmil Reyes hits a home run out of the park, and this dude catches it, and it was just unreal. I've never witnessed anything like that, and I got a really good video of it too, so I can remember it forever.
Yeah, check out the Susie Hunter on Twitter to check out pictures of her stops in Cleveland, Chicago at Wrigley Field, and Minnesota at Target Field. You can check those all out, plus all the stops along the way. She's taking a picture with the baseball, and each baseball has what number. So Minnesota halfway there, that was number 15, Chicago 16, Cleveland 17. And this is all for a good cause. So tell everybody about that and how they can get involved.
Yes, that's right. So I'm raising $30,000 for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. They are just champions of youth sports. So I want to do whatever I can to, get them the funds that they need to give these kids a really great experience. So if you want to donate to the fundraiser, you can find the link on my social media. I'm at the Susie Hunter on all platforms, but you can also find a link to the fundraiser at thesusiehunter.com/MLB-road-trip. That's a landing page for all the links you need to that GoFundMe. And you can read more about the trip if you want to know more.
The trip is ongoing. So you are where now? What city are you in?
Oh, boy. I'm in Toledo right now, but I'm on my way to Detroit.
All right. So it's from Toledo, Ohio, Detroit. You're going to a game tonight? Not tonight, right?
I'm going tonight.
Going tonight. So, all right. You're at 3:30 Eastern time. You're going to Detroit. I think it's Central time zone, so you'll gain a little.
It's Eastern. It's Eastern.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Detroit tonight. And then after Detroit, what do you got? Like Milwaukee still in the mix? You got to come back and do Chicago like next week?
The whole Midwest is a big mess because none of the schedules line up in a way where I can just drive in a straight line.
Because you got Kansas City, St. Louis still in the mix, right?
They're all still in the mix too. Yeah. So I'll be hitting them up soon. All
right. Well, we'll be following Susie spending the summer traveling to every Major League Baseball ballpark. She's raising money for the Boys and Girls Club. Donate at thesusiehunter.com and check out all of her pictures along the way, where she's been, all the different surprises and people that she's seen. All right, Susie, safe driving.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Mike. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I love the story. It's always awesome. I have so many people kind of commenting on how great this trip is. And Susie will be back. We'll continue to follow her journey across the country. And you can help her out at thesusiehunter.com. Yes, we mentioned a Phillies trade in there as well. And the Phillies trade is Spencer Howard, reportedly anyway, Jeff Passan from ESPN is reporting it is Spencer Howard to the Rangers for Kyle Gibson and Ann Kennedy. Is there any more in the deal, or is that it, Josh? Apparently there are so Howard and 2 prospects, are going to Texas, and Gibson and Kennedy are coming back. So Howard is gone. Gibson and Kennedy are coming here, and that means you're getting a starting pitcher and a closer, right? So you're going to get Kennedy will be your closer, and Gibson would probably be right now. I mean, heck, he's probably better than Eflin is. And that is, do I like this deal? I said earlier, if it's Gibson and Kennedy, I'm more into it than just Howard for Kennedy, because Kennedy's going to be a rental. He's a 2-year guy, 2-month rental, and Gibson is signed through next year. So next year you're going to have Nola, Gibson, Eflin, Wheeler. That's a decent starting rotation. So the Phillies starting rotation definitely just got upgraded. The Phillies bullpen just got upgraded because you're going to get Ann Kennedy, but the one thing I will say about Ann Kennedy is he's having a good year closing this year, but he has not been a traditional closer. Keep that in mind. So it's been a crazy whirlwind day. I don't think it's over yet either. You got 20-some minutes left for the Phillies. Can they do one more thing? Now, they traded Spencer Howard away. The Mets got Javier Baez from the Cubs. So you have both teams in the division doing things. While it's not it's not a huge move. It's not like a blockbuster, but Spencer Howard's the biggest pitching prospect in your organization as of right now. But you're trading a guy with a 5.72 ERA in return for Kyle Gibson, who's under 3, and Ann Kennedy, who's got 16 saves. If you're saying we're buyers, they bought right now. I know that's going to tick some people off that they wanted this team to sell, but right now, the Phillies also get a starter in the Rangers' top 10 prospect list. Hans Kraus is also being reported from Jim Salisbury. So add that to the mix as well. So the Phillies, I would have to say Dave Dombrowski did a pretty good job there getting a starter who has a contract moving forward. So the team is adding by the way, Kyle Gibson was the opening day starter out there. So Jason Stark adds that besides Gibson and Kennedy, the Rangers are also sending Hans Kraus to the Phillies for Spencer Howard, Kevin Gowdy, and one more prospect. Sources tell The Athletic. All right? So there you go. Trying to take this all in real time, doing the best. I think that about kind of gets it right there from Jason Stark. Kyle Gibson's a guy, I think the defense behind him is going to be a problem. You know, he's kind of a, pitch to contact kind of guy. And Ann Kennedy is now your closer, which kind of, I guess, moves Ranger Suarez. I wonder what they do with Ranger Suarez now. Do they put him in the starting rotation? Does adding a closer allow you to put him into the starting rotation, Ranger Suarez? Because now you could put Suarez as your number 5 starter with Kyle Gibson. I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to that. I wouldn't be adverse to putting Ranger Suarez in the rotation, getting Velasquez out of the rotation. This team needs Velasquez out of the rotation so bad just for the mental sake of this team. Agree? So the Phillies acquiring the Rangers starting and pitcher and closer. So they get a pair of moves there. You can get more details over at 973ESPN.com. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. That's the text board. Let us know how you feel about this move, because I would say, and I said this earlier today, I think they'll make a couple deals today. I think they will add another piece or two. I think they might add another starting pitcher. I think they might add another bullpen guy. I said that earlier. I think they'll get a starter. I think they'll get a bullpen guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got a pair. There's here's the deal as we kind of broke it down for you. And Bob Wankel in an hour. Gibson 6-3 this year, 2.87 ERA. He's gone at least 5 innings in 18 of 19 starts, including 18 straight. That's something that this team just cannot get. They just cannot get guys to throw innings. And then Kennedy has a 2.51 ERA in 32 appearances, and he definitely is an upgrade over everybody they've got. The one thing, and what did we talk about? I think it was Scott Air who said this on Billy's show on Saturday about walks. Well, Kennedy has 7 walks in 32 and a third innings this year. That's a big one. Is the ability to get a guy that comes in here, unlike Jose Alvarado, who can't throw strikes. And that's why this deal is a big one for the Phils. They get a closer who comes in and can throw strikes. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Let me kind of reset here because the trade stuff is 20 minutes from ending, so I want to kind of take it all in, and then we'll come back with that. We got Eagles, we got Ben Simmons, we got plenty more. Sports Bash, 97.3. Friday edition. It's brought to you by JCPenney. It's back to school season at JCPenney. Stock up on store-wide doorbusters while they last. You can score first-class deals before they're gone. Weekdays are back in style at JCPenney. I'm Mike Gill. All right, a Friday edition, football at 4 coming up. Andrew DeCecco with all the latest on the Eagles today at camp. A lot of guys sat out, but there are some interesting storylines. If you missed Sal Paolantonio, check it out on our YouTube channel. Don't forget you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search 973 ESPN, and we'll get you all the details on the deals that have been made with the Phillies over at 97.3 ESPN. On the video, Elliot checks in. He says, Phillies trade. Yes, they did. Phillies did make a trade, Elliot. Julian C. says, Phillies have no idea what they're doing. Kennedy is a free agent. Yes, he is a rental. That's why I was saying if I'm trading Spencer Howard for Kennedy 1-for-1, I don't like the deal. I got Gibson in the deal, though. He is a player that is under team control through next year. Look, they didn't know what they were doing with, and I said this, I think, earlier in the week, or whatever it was. It might have been last week. My days are all messed up. But I said this before. My fear is they're going to trade Spencer Howard because they don't know what to do with him, and he's going to go someplace else, and he's going to be really good. I've said that before. I like Howard. I think they are using him horribly, or they used him horribly. They have no idea what they want to do with this kid. And unfortunately, they had to give up on him to get something to help this team out now. Because this organization has been so inept over the last couple of years that they are unable to build from within. They have no farm system. Look at the trades that were happening all around baseball today. There was a tweet that was out there that said executives are complaining that everyone's prices are too high to facilitate trades. And many of these teams, the Cubs, the White Sox, the Yankees, they all had, the Mets had prospects that they could give up. The Phillies just didn't. The Phillies wanted to try to stay in the race. They wanted to try to get better, and the way they did it was essentially, hey, let's move our guy that we just don't know what to do with. Let's move a guy, and they got in return, Krause is the number 9 prospect from the Rangers. So they get a guy that you can either, A, utilize in a trade to try to go get Byron Buxton. Now do you go add an offensive piece? And by the way, the trade deadline in 12 minutes from now. So you have to really hope that they're making a push right now. Dave Dombrowski on the line, trying to get something done. We shall find out. I'm going to tell you right now, I said this before, and so far, it appears that I've been right. I said they're going to starting pitcher and they'll get a reliever. They got a closer and they got a starter. They got the opening day starter from Texas and they got their closer. So they got it 2 pieces that are better than what they had. No question about it. And they did it for the price of a guy they weren't doing anything with and quite frankly didn't know what to do with. The Phillies just didn't know what to do with him. So would I have rather kept Spencer Howard? Yes, I would. But I understand why they did it. Unfortunately, Spencer Howard was not pitching well when he was given the opportunity. Did the Phillies sell too low on Howard? Quite frankly, it's hard to say that. The guy's been given an opportunity. He doesn't pitch well when given the chance. But you can see it in him. That's the problem. You can see that he has the talent. You can see that he has the ability. You can see that he has that top prospect stuff that we've been talking about or told about, I should say. So what do you guys think out there? 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Here's some news on Spencer Howard, by the way. The Colts believe that Carson Wentz's foot injury is serious and that he could have surgery, and it might be a big-time injury for Carson Wentz. A lot of people are tweeting about now that the Colts are bracing for surgery and that Wentz could miss significant time. And that, of course, would mean that Carson Wentz would not reach the 75% of his snaps. And if he doesn't reach the 75% of his snaps, you don't get a first-round pick. He will see a noted foot specialist in the future, and they are saying that surgery could be in the cards there. So we got that happening as we speak. We've got the trade deadline. The Yankees are going out, and they're getting another starter right now as well. So the Phillies make a deal. Spencer Howard, Kevin Gowdy, and Josh Gessner to the Texans, to the Texas Rangers. And that's for Kyle Gibson and Ann Kennedy and Hans Kraus. So, look, Gibson, you get for the extra year. He's not making a whole heck of a lot of money. So from that aspect, here's the problem. They didn't know what the hell they were doing with Howard. They bungled that whole situation. So now you had to essentially say, we envision Howard being ready to pitch. He's not ready to pitch, so we need someone to take his spot. So you get Gibson, but he's basically what this team and organization has become, a stopgap. He's not a young guy that you're going to hitch your wagon to. Howard is 25 years old, 26 years old. You still had hopes for him that he could pitch for you for the next 7 to 10 years. Gibson this year for 2 months and next year. And Kennedy, he's 36 years old. He's a 2-month rental. Kraus is the key because you are looking at a player who was the 9th best pitching prospect in that organization, probably better than any other pitching prospect that you have in your organization. Sadly, that's how bad the Phillies organization has been with their prospects. They just have not been able to develop their own players. Now, if you look at it from this point of view, well, we just want to make the playoffs. Sure, they're better off just trying to make the playoffs with these guys. But what did they give up? Josh Gessner, from my recollection, and I'm not sitting here telling you I know a whole heck of a lot about Gessner, but I think he's an international guy, if memory serves. I think was a guy that they signed. I want to say, man, I vaguely remember him as, I'm trying to go back to Gessner. Was he the guy, Josh Gessner? I'm not asking you to get off the top of your head, but can you look this up? Was he the guy they signed? He's like Australian or something, right? Gotcha. Okay, so he's the right guy, right? So he was a guy that I think that the team had some hopes for. And he had been pitching actually pretty well throughout the organization. I don't have his stuff up in front of me here, but I know that he was an international signing. Gessner was. And the other guy in the deal who's the third guy in that deal? Kevin Gowdy. Yeah, Gowdy to me is, I think, just a guy. Yeah, Gowdy's a guy who has kind of been a little bit of a disappointment for this team. He was a top prospect back a while back, but he really hasn't. He's essentially, I think Gowdy was actually at one point a second-round pick. Look at this, man. I'm on my game today. Second-round pick, 2016. I think Gowdy is kind of a lost cause. He used to be something. Do you want to take him? You can have him. So they're getting Howard in the deal. Gessner's a guy they like a little bit. But Kraus is for real. I think Kraus maybe ends up being the best piece of the deal. Now, the part is, do they spin him off to try to get Buxton? There's a lot happening here. Carl Bradley at Sizzlemaster tweets at me. Hey, Carl Bradley. Kraus is a legit prospect and already at AA. His future and upside mixed with Gibson at $7 million per year worth this move. That's kind of what I said. Yeah, I think Kraus is probably the best ceiling in this trade. Gibson you have for cheap. It puts the Band-Aid on for this year and next, and you get more competitive in your bullpen. Do I like giving up Howard? Not necessarily. I just don't trust that they know what to do with him. So I will sign off on this move making you better now, but in reality, still poorly run organization. Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take your profit, find out how. PropSwap.com. Andrew DeCecco from the InsideTheBirds.com is here. And we've got observations on day 3 of Eagles camp. We'll get all his takes from what we've seen so far. A little overview of week number 1, day 3 observations. Andrew DeCecco at A DeCecco NFL here on Football at 4 on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Andrew, man, what's going on?
Mike, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Awesome, man. Happy hour Friday. Football's back. I feel like this is a monumental moment in the 2021 year. We got football back finally and normalcy, right? That's the best part about it. It feels like there's a little bit of normalcy as camp is back and there's battles happening. So let's get into them. A lot going on there. First, I want to get Jalen Hurts. The first couple of days of practice here, what we're hearing, what you know about Hurts and how he's kind of looked. Because, you know, a lot of people are taking a look at Joe Flacco and saying, man, he looks pretty good out there. But this apparently, you know, this is Jalen Hurts' team. They want him to win this. So what are we hearing about how he's looked so far?
Well, Jalen's taken some big steps, that natural progression that you wanted to see from him, throwing the ball in the tight windows, really building that continuity with his receiving core. It's never a question of poise with Jalen. Then I never get the sense that the moment's going to be too big for him. I think once he gets into the rhythm of things, now he's going to have full off season. He's going to be able to carry that momentum into the preseason. I think you're really going to see him work on some of the areas that really held him back last year from becoming from really putting a stamp on that position, if that makes sense. And now I think he's got an array of pass catchers and a healthy offensive line in front of him to sort of help with that transition. So, I mean, just a sharp-minded quarterback who's really starting to blossom really in year 2.
Yeah, and the one thing is, you know, they obviously said they want him to take the reins. He's taking everything with the ones, but he's handled it pretty well too. This is a guy obviously who is unfazed by all the stuff that surrounds him, it seems.
Yeah, and that's what you really want in a franchise quarterback, right? I mean, you want someone that's going to lead with conviction. You want someone that's not going to let anything distract him. He's always going to be focused on the task at hand, and that's really what you want. He's not going to be fazed by the Philadelphia crowd, win or lose. And I think that he has the makeup of someone who's built for this city, if that makes sense. And I think that he's going to continue to lead this football team and only get better, especially with the innovative coaching staff around him and a healthy array of weapons.
Yep, I like that answer there, the innovative coaching staff. And we wonder, how are they going to use this? Andrew, obviously Ertz is here. Roseman said he expects him to be here. Sirianni said, hey, does that mean we have to play more 12? No, we could do this. We could do that. We could go 11. We can make you think. If Ertz is here, how is he utilized?
I think he's more of a steady presence. His availability has rarely been a concern, right? I mean, he's someone that lives over the middle of the field. He's going to help ease Jalen Hurts into the flow of things, so to speak. And he's just a sure-handed veteran that runs precise routes and one of the more reliable tight ends in football. So I think he's sort of going to be the less dynamic threat from the tight end spot. But I think he's going to be a focal point in this offense. I mean, and when you have two top 10 tight ends like the Eagles do, it'd be criminal to not utilize them to their strength. So I think he's going to be, as it stands now, he's on the roster, and I think as long as he's on the roster, he's going to be one of the focal points on offense.
Yeah. What did you think about today? Nick Sirianni, very vocal during practice, essentially stopping practice at some point, saying details, and almost, letting them know that this was not an acceptable practice today.
That's what you want to see from a first-year head coach, from any head coach. You want to see him sort of take charge and let them know set the standard, so to speak. Let them know what's acceptable and what's not going to cut it. I mean, you have some guys here that are vying for roster spots and depth position there, and you need to always approach each and every practice with efficiency and that resolve to get better. And I think that he's starting to set the precedent early on, which is very important, especially from a young head coach. Like, he's very young. I think he really sort of set the precedent like he's doing is really important.
Andrew, I want to get your take on the second running back job. You and Jeff Mosher basically said, are you team Howard or are you team Kerryon Johnson? Right now, as Adam Kaplan talked about on the Inside the Birds podcast, is Howard looks like he's in shape, looks, dare I say, explosive. So Howard Johnson, there was a former baseball player, Howard Johnson.
There you go.
How does that battle look right now?
Well, I think it's one of those things, one of the premier battles this summer, along with left tackle, of course. But I think when you look at the running back spot and you see what both players bring to the table, the absence of a power running game was clearly evident on offense last season, and it really eliminated a crucial dimension for that offense, especially with Jalen Hurts being a young quarterback and sort of thrown into the fire. And now I think that you could even see them keep both of those guys and use Kenneth Gainwell as sort of the change of guy and maybe say goodbye to Boston Scott. I mean, they have a lot of options, but what I think that they both bring is they're tremendous pass blockers. They're good between the tackles. They can grind out those tough yards. But I think that Kerryon Johnson is actually the best receiving back out of all the backs that are in the stable right now. So I really do believe that if he's healthy and has that and can sort of show some semblance of a burst that he used to have. I know he's just 24 years old, but those injuries, they tend to take a toll, especially when they're knee injuries. I think that he brings the most dimensions to the offense and would be a good complement to Miles Sanders.
Good stuff, Andrew, obviously, and then Boston Scott, and we know the rookie Kenneth Gainwell, they're in the mix too. But if Howard gives him that second, that power back, he might, kind of take some of the touches away from those guys, or are they used totally different?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because when you look at how Nick Sirianni, where he's coming from and how Frank Reich deployed the running backs and with the Colts, you saw Jonathan Taylor handle the lion's share of the carries and be the early down runner, but you also saw Naheem Hines sprinkled in there and a number of other guys. So I think that these guys are going to have clear-cut roles. I don't know that they're going to lean on Miles Sanders to be a three-down workhorse. I also don't know if Miles Sanders is, frankly, if he's that kind of player 2 years in. I think we've sort of seen that it kind of might be best utilized to preserve his explosiveness and some of his dynamic traits, to sort of use him sparingly. I still think that he was criminally misutilized last season. He does need at least 15 touches a game, but I do think that they have a lot of guys behind him that present a lot of different matchup problems for teams. I think that they have guys that can grind out the clock and Kerryon Johnson and Jordan Howard. I also think that they have guys like Kenneth Gainwell that can be mismatches, and they also have guys like Jason Huntley, who we're going to see a more extensive look at this summer. Remember, he was acquired off waivers prior to last season, and so we never really got to see. And he had only a handful of carries, and then Boston Scott's there as well. So they do have a number of different guys that can fill a myriad of roles.
Over at the left guard position, Isaac Seumalo is injured week to week here, which has Nate Herbig in that spot. Landon Dickerson obviously not ready to go. Brandon Brooks missing some time with the injuries already. So already some problems on the offensive line. But let me ask you, if Seumalo was not able to start the season, is Herbig your guy at left guard, or do you hope that Landon Dickerson is ready and he's the guy there?
Well, I think you hope that Seumalo's ready early on. Maybe it might just be a week or two that he sort of is slow to get reacclimated. But I think in the perfect world, you have Nate Herbig and you plug him in there. Nate Herbig's such a valuable player, and he's sort of been overlooked this offseason. But he's got extensive experience last year in a number of roles, and he got progressively better as the season went on. And I think that he has so much value as a key backup that you just leave him in there and don't rush Landon Dickerson in prematurely. Let him sort of get his sea legs under him. Let him in an ideal situation, the Eagles they probably wouldn't want Landon Dickerson to play a single snap this year and come in next year completely free with a clean bill of health and sort of dominate, and he'll have his full off season in an NFL weight room and everything else. So I think you plug Nate Herbig in there and don't rush Landon Dickerson into the lineup if you don't have to, because Nate Herbig's shown that he can be an adequate starter if pressed into duty.
I know you do a lot of homework on the draft. Milton Williams was a third-round pick. Yesterday, Jonathan Gannon said he could play 5 positions. They plan on moving him all over the place. So hearing that, your impressions of what Milton Williams could bring to the team this season?
Yeah, I'm not really surprised to hear that, and that's part of the reason why I was so enamored with the pick when the pick was in. many people may not have been as enticed with the selection coming from Louisiana Tech, and there are certain players like Dami Brown on the board, the wide receiver from North Carolina, and so on and so forth. But he just brings the positional versatility. I think he has a lot of ability that can sort of be unearthed this summer. I think he came into the NFL a bit raw, but I think working with him this summer with Tracy Rocker and some of the coaches there are really going to accent what he's good at and put him in position to be successful, whether it be defensive end or whether it be defensive tackle or whatever plans that they may have for him. I think that he is a player that can come right in and play and give them some productive snaps and be disruptive in a limited capacity early on.
Yeah, they indicated too, Andrew, that Fletcher Cox might be doing a lot of moving around the line too. Like, don't just get fixated on him playing, at the defensive tackle spot.
Yeah, I mean, Fletcher Cox is another player that, and you can argue, and me and Jeff did in what we wrote. I picked him as the best player on the defense. So I mean, and arguably, and I think I actually put him as the best player on the team, and you can certainly make a case for that as well because of the mismatches he presents. And moving him around to defensive end, whether it be defensive end, defensive tackle, wherever, you have to account for him. And whether or not he gets to the quarterback or not, he's still going to impact the play. He's going to command a double team and open things up for other people to flow the football. So he just is such a valuable player that wherever you move him around, teams are going to have to account for him, and it's going to open things up for his teammates.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Jonathan Gannon utilized that. I want to get your take, Andrew, because obviously Steven Nelson is now here. You heard what Gannon said about him is, hey, first impressions are this guy's pretty good. How does that change the expectations for this Eagles defense?
Well, that's interesting because teams won't be able to prey on the other side, whether it was Avonte Maddox, Michael Jacquet, Kevon Seymour. Now they have to, it's sort of adding a guy like Steve Nelson, as he likes to be called. It's going to keep offenses honest, and you're going to have to find ways. I think they're going to find success over the middle of the field. To be honest with you, I still am not completely entranced with the linebacker situation by any means, and I think that teams will find success there. But I think the secondary now is much more balanced. You're moving a guy like Avonte Maddox into the slot where he really belongs. He can also play some safety and be that positionless type defender, which I think he is best suited for. And so the secondary is very veteran laden, and I think that. But the one question that I have about the secondary, Mike, is now there's still depth concerns, right? I mean,
Definitely.
Should there be an injury to any of those positions? Then what? Then you're in a similar situation that you were in last year. A lot of these guys are just a play away. They don't really they're really razor thin there. But I mean, as far as stars are concerned, you have to like what they did.
Yeah, no question. Like if Nelson, Slay, and Maddox are out there, without putting you on the spot here and knowing everybody's depth chart, but starting corners, those three, where would that rank them in the division?
Yeah, I would probably say 2.
You like the Giants better, I would imagine, or do you like Washington's better?
I like the Giants better.
Can't be Dallas's, right?
Yeah, I like the Giants better.
Bradbury, you like Bradbury, I guess, is the best. You think Bradbury's better than Slay?
Yes, I do.
All right, and Dory Jackson, who's been, we were talking about this the other day. I said, you got to put him right. Like, if you like Bradbury better than Slay, then you probably like the Giants a little better. But Dory Jackson, he's kind of been banged up. We'll see what he brings to the table. I don't know. But the fact, though, they went from definitively the worst to in the conversation. That's how interesting that signing became. And you mentioned it, though. I think it's a great point is you got Anthony Harris, Rodney McLeod, both veterans, these two veterans. I mean, this is all of a sudden a veteran, but one injury brings you right back to square one.
Yeah, and that's the problem because then all of a sudden you're looking at someone like Craig James or in that safety spot, Kevon Wallace, who's very inexperienced, or Elijah Riley, maybe.
What are you hearing about Wallace? Because it appears that he said the other day, man, that everything is slowing down for me. Like it sounds like one of those classic, hey, the game's a lot different all of a sudden for me in year number 2. Was he a guy that you liked out of the draft last year and have interesting expectations for this year?
Well, As far as the second part of your question, I liked him coming out of the draft, but I didn't necessarily see him as a bona fide starting caliber safety. I saw him as a rotational complementary piece on defense, someone that can be that third safety and really give them quality snaps, especially if they suffer injuries. I think he can step in and adequately fill in. But as far as being a full-time safety, I don't know that he's that player. Now things are starting to slow down. Like you said, he's starting to settle in. And I think he's going to carve out a role there, which is going to be very important when you look at Anthony Harris, and then you look at Roger McLeod, who plans to play week 1, but then there's also Marcus Epps there. We've seen Marcus Epps. I don't know that the Eagles would like Marcus Epps out there for an extended period of time. So you really need to see Kayvon Wallace take that next step. I also think that Elijah Riley is a young player who has some promise there. He's a player that we talked about last summer. He has cornerback and safety versatility there. So there's unproven depth behind the two starters, but I think that there's some players there that can give them quality snaps for a limited capacity.
Give me your take on the Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett defensive end battle there, because I don't think we thought that was going to be so much. This is almost like the left tackle spot. You got these two guys, I think, battling for starting snaps.
Yeah, I certainly didn't envision that being an actual competition going into training camp, but here we are. That's kind of that's really the mantra that Nick Sirianni's preached since he's got here is competition, competition, competition. So looking at that battle, I still think Derek Barnett has the edge there, but I think that you also heard Nick Sirianni say how he's going to implement a rotation. So you're going to see a lot of guys get a lot more snaps than we've grown accustomed to seeing in the previous regime. Ryan Kerrigan's going to see his snaps. Milton Williams could also play some defensive end. They have Teron Jackson, who's going to see an extended look this summer in the preseason. I think Josh Sweat's a player who's probably best utilized in a rotational role to sort of bottle up his explosiveness and dynamic presence off the edge. A lot of those players sort of lose their burst, so to speak, when they're put out there for 50+ snaps a game. They don't necessarily have the same impact that they would when they're coming in fresh with fresh legs. So I think that Derek Barnett will probably get the early downs.
That's another interesting storyline. There's so much going on here. It's fun to have football back. It's fun to see the training camp battles, and obviously some stories are already emerging. Devonta Smith, though, he said it himself that he didn't have a great day. He said, I talked to Slay, talked to everybody. I want all their information. And then apparently today had a very good day. We all anticipate big things from Smith, but these first couple days, it sounds as if he's acclimating himself well to the NFL. But on the other side, are you concerned about Jalen Reagor and the slow start he's had with some injuries?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard not to. I mean, Jalen's dealing with some things off the field as well, which I think we all need to be cognizant of and sort of just sensitive of when we're evaluating them, because a lot of these things, like I said, everyone is wired differently in the NFL, and some people can block it out, but others, it will actually, those type of things will impact the way that you approach each practice and things like that. But yeah, I mean, coming off if he had a strong rookie season or offered glimpses of the player that the Eagles envisioned him being, that explosive, dynamic wide receiver that can move around and create mismatches, I don't think that there would be as much of a concern. But the fact that now you're compiling, it's compiled with what is sort of taking place now, I mean, it's going to send off alarms a little bit, I would think. I mean, you really want to see him take that next step, and he's going to have to get into the rhythm of things fairly early here, or he can fall behind, because there's other guys there now and other young players that are going to be vying for snaps as well. So, we'll see how that goes, but it's kind of touch and go right now.
Football 4, Andrew DeCecco at A DeCecco NFL, Eagles training camp day 3. More Inside the Birds podcast comes out on Monday. They'll have all the weekend edition. Andrew, of course, and the boys do a great job over there. Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, Andrew DeCecco, all a part of Football at 4. Eagles are back. They open the preseason on August the 12th, and you can hear that game live on 97.3 ESPN. Andrew, enjoy the weekend, my man.
You too, my friend.
All right, there's Andrew DeCecco. This hour brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Take your sports bets and make a profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. All right, the Phillies have made another trade, and it's an old friend coming back to Philadelphia. Phillies and Philadelphia sports teams always like to bring back a guy. You'll remember this guy. I've got the details right now at 973ESPN.com, or I'll tell you when I get back. All right, 426 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. On this day, July the 30th, by the way, trade, Phillies, they brought back Freddie Galvis. Freddie Galvis is back. What'd they give up? You know that yet?
I haven't seen what they've given up yet, but I've seen that the deal is already done.
Yeah, so Galvis is coming back. This is an interesting trade. Couple of reasons. One, Galvis is a hell of a better shortstop than Didi is. So are they done with Didi playing shortstop is a question there. Does Galvis come in, play shortstop? He's also a better third baseman than Bohm is.
Also, Galvis has played center field before.
I just tweeted this out. Don't be surprised, though, if Galvis is asked to play some outfield.
Because
Because
he plays all those positions.
as Rob Motti tweeted just a little while ago, he said one of his favorite Galvis exchanges was when at one point, let me bring it back up here. Where is the
Where did Rob go?
Rob Motti tweeted this out, and I was laughing because I said, you're right, because I thought about this. I said, I thought he played some center field. He did. He played left field. He said, my favorite Galvis moment in 2013, Phillies had J-Roll and Chase and Michael Young in the infield. Rob Motti said, Freddie, have you ever played center field? Freddie said, no. Motti said, can you play center field? Freddie said, I can play anywhere. The next day, he started in left.
Love that. That's awesome.
Right? All right, so that's that. Let's find out what happened on this day. July the 30th, it's the weekend edition, so we'll get you a bunch of different things today. Caitlyn Jenner, then Bruce, won the gold medal in the men's decathlon at the Summer Olympics in Montreal, 1976.
Yeah, most people in today's world have no idea that that's actually where Jenner was famous.
Right. Caitlyn Jenner was then Bruce Jenner and was an Olympic gold medal athlete.
Very accomplished Olympic
Yes.
athlete.
1994, Birmingham Barons outfielder Michael Jordan hit a home run against the Carolina Mudcats at Birmington's Hoover Metropolitan Stadium. It was the first homer of Jordan's minor league baseball career.
The only time the Birmingham Barons ever get mentioned in a scenario like this is when it's about Michael Jordan.
How about it? This day, 2005, speaking of Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan of the NHL, Sidney Crosby, was the number 1 overall pick. 4 years later at 21, he's the youngest captain in NHL history to win a Stanley Cup. No opinion on Crosby?
I'm not the Crosby lover that some other people are.
I mean, come on. I mean, he's still amazing.
He's a great player, but I think there's a part of me that wonders if Crosby would have landed on the Penguins, would he have been the same career? Like if he would have landed like in Calgary, would we still look at him the same way?
I mean, they had the number 1 pick.
Like there's a part of me that looks at Crosby and says he's a little like Derek Jeter. Like if Derek
I
Jeter
don't
played
think
for
so.
any other team,
I
than
don't
the
agree with that.
Yankees,
I agree that if Jeter played for somebody else, he's not Jeter.
Mhm.
He's not the Jeter that we now know.
Right.
If Crosby played someplace else, he's that good. Like,
Yeah, well, he
Crosby
remembered
was
the same
said to
way.
be Crosby. Like, he was like LeBron.
He was supposed
This
to be,
guy's
the
going to
next.
be, and he has been.
He has, but I just ask if he didn't win all those cups and have all those championships.
Well, they won all the cups because he's Crosby.
But if he was
That's the most asinine thing I ever heard.
But
Well,
they-
what if he never won any of these cups? They only won the cups because they had Crosby.
They also had Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray in goal, and they had Evgeny Malkin playing the line as well.
Yeah, but the key to they were the worst team in the league. They got Crosby, and they were going out of business. The Penguins were going to fold.
I know. I remember.
That's a lot of
Mario Lemieux had
pressure.
to come back and play for them.
That's a lot of pressure that kid was under. As much as I'm not like a Crosby guy, I got to give him credit. That guy's amazing.
I'm just saying. If
He could have been on the Islanders.
That's what I'm saying. He could have been on another team, but they still.
No, I'm saying he could have been on the Islanders, and that team would have been the team. They would have been the Penguins.
So you're saying that no matter where Crosby went, they would have won rings?
Yes. Now, if Jeter went someplace, that team's not winning because of Jeter. Jeter is Jeter because he's on a great Yankee team, and he was like the leader of a Yankees team.
Gotcha.
He
All right.
wouldn't have been thought of in the same regard if he was on the Blue Jays. Crosby would have been Crosby no matter where he went.
All right.
I mean, Pittsburgh's a great hockey town, but it's not the Yankees, for God's sakes, right? It's not like
No.
Crosby's the best player on the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Montreal Canadiens.
No.
This is the Penguins, who are a great hockey franchise, great organization. He made them stay great. He kept them in the Lemieux. That's what I think.
All right, I'll give you that. I just wonder sometimes with these athletes if we would view them differently if they were elsewhere. That's all.
Some, I do agree with that. Not him. I think he would be viewed the same. Kevin Garnett was traded to Boston for Al Jefferson, Ryan Gomes, Sebastian Telfair, Gerald Green, Theo Ratliff, and 2 first-round picks, one of which was acquired in a trade with Minnesota the year prior. The deal marked the largest NBA trade ever for one player. Boston gets a new Big Three. It happened on this day, 2007.
That Big Three won at least one ring. They got the 2 NBA Finals. That was a solid run for them.
Very good. Worth every minute of it, right? I mean, you gave up how many players in that trade?
Well, half
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 first-round picks. 5 players and 2 picks.
Yeah, and half of them didn't matter. I mean, what was Gerald Green and Theo Ratliff do the rest of their career?
Probably nothing.
Gerald Green just hung around for a decade and a half.
1981, after 6 weeks, Major League Baseball player strike comes to an end. The players and owners reach an agreement. Play resumed on August 9th, with the season being split into 2 halves. Remember that?
Baseball and their just disgusting history of labor disagreements is just so pathetic to me sometimes.
93, Oakland trades Ricky Henderson to Toronto. Henderson struggled with injuries, won the World Series. They beat the Phillies that year, 1993. On this day, Henderson traded.
Those Blues Jay teams were stacked, too. I mean, there were so many guys on those teams. People forget. Like, those were arguably some of the more talented teams in the 90s.
There was 93, 92, 93 back-to-backs.
Yeah, I mean, they had Hall of Famer
They were the
Paul
Yankees
Molitor.
before the Yankees. They were making trades. They got Dave Winfield, Paul Molitor, Ricky Henderson.
They had Jack Morris in 92. They had Jimmy Key.
My buddy the other day, I'm going to the Babe Ruth World Series.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, the guy who coaches, he said, you know who the speaker was at the banquet? Jack Morris.
Wow.
He's like, we're watching a game. They were in North Dakota. So we're watching a game, and I'm sitting next to Jack Morris.
Just chilling?
Watching a Babe Ruth World Series game.
That must have been cool.
I was just talking about him the other day. How he may have pitched the greatest game in the history of baseball.
With the Twins.
Yeah. Right?
That was actually past his prime, too.
Well,
his prime was the 80s with the Tigers when they won the World Series.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like...
But that game against the Twins when John Smoltz was on mound for the Braves, I mean, that was incredible.
Yeah. Maybe the most underrated big game pitcher of
the last
ever.
40 years.
They win the World Series with that game. 1978, Pete Rose hitless in a 16-4 Reds loss to the Braves. Hitting streak comes to an end at 44 games.
Hit King. He couldn't even get Joe DiMaggio's record.
Burt Blyleven struck out Mike Davis, just 3,000th career strikeout on this day, 1986, at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. Speaking of the Twins.
Burt Blyleven might be the worst pitcher in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that whole story. I mean, it's like they feel like they just finally let him get in.
He was a stat accumulator, Mike. I'm against stat accumulators. I'm anti-dude who has a bunch of stats because he hung around long enough.
Ronda Rousey defends her UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship with a 34-second knockout of Beth Correa at the HSBC Arena in Rio de Janeiro.
I remember this.
That was the last win of Ronda Rousey's career, 2015.
Everyone
the last
was
time she won a fight.
Everyone was saying Beth Correa was like the next big thing at women's 135, and after that loss, her entire career went sideways.
Finally, on this day, 2014, Paul George suffered a compound fracture in a Team USA basketball scrimmage. He played 6 games the next year, and he's been pretty good since then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad he came back healthy. That's how I feel.
And that's what happened on this day. Weekend edition, July 30, 31, August 1. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll be back. Phillies make a bunch of moves, actually 2. They add 3 players. We're going to break it all down. Bob Wankel, crossing broad, covers the Phillies. Gives us the details. Coming up next. All right, a Friday edition Sports Bash. It's a happy hour Friday. It's also a trade deadline Friday and Bob Wankel Friday, and he is with us right now to break it all down. Phillies make 2 trades, 3 players in all. Are they good enough? Probably not. Bob Wankel is here. He seems to agree with me off the bat there that, all right, let's break them down, my man. It's got Spencer Howard out, Kyle Gibson and Kennedy in. On the surface, you're better today, pitching-wise, than you were 10 minutes ago, right?
Listen,
40 minutes ago.
It's a beautiful Friday afternoon in the middle of the summer. People are feeling good, and so I don't want to rain all over anybody's parade here. So let's just start off with something positive, Mike, because I'm a positive kind of guy. Phillies are better today than they were at the completion of their game against the Washington Nationals yesterday. There's no arguing that. Are they good enough to win this division? No. I mean, I just really don't know how else to say it. I mean, these moves are they're okay, but the Braves got better today. The Mets got better today, and I just don't think that what they did was nearly enough.
Yeah, the Braves, by the way, just got Richard Rodriguez, so they got a closer. Phillies got a closer. Gibson's in there. What's the starting rotation look like for Philadelphia moving forward?
Well, right now, you obviously have Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola at the top, and then it gets a little bit murky. Kyle Gibson slots in, and Kyle Gibson's had a really nice year this season. But there are a couple things that kind of give you pause. Number one, he's having a career year. He's just really never been this good before. And number two, in 2 starts following the All-Star break, he has given up 11 earned runs in 10 innings combined over 2 starts. He's put on 26 base runners in 2 starts since the All-Star break. So, the Phillies went out and scouted him his last 2 times out and said, like, that's our guy, and I find that to be a little bit confusing, to be honest with you. He is coming from a pitcher-friendly ballpark in Texas to certainly a hitter-friendly ballpark at Citizens Bank Park. His defense is not nearly as good here as it was in Texas. There are a lot of concerns about him. That being said, even if he's just league average or slightly below league average, he'll present a significant upgrade over Vince Velasquez and Matt Moore. But to your point and to your question, this is the concern. Right now, with Zach Eflin out of the lineup, Vince Velasquez and Matt Moore are still in this rotation. So I don't know. I thought that the Phillies had to get those guys out of there. And right now, at least one of them, even when Zach Eflin comes back, looks like they'll remain in.
Did they give up on Spencer Howard too soon?
Listen, Spencer Howard has shown some flashes here. Like I tweeted out a little while ago that opponents had a 107 batting average with a 331 OPS against Spencer Howard the first time through the order this season. That doesn't just happen by accident. I mean, you've got to be able to bring something to the table to get batters out early in games like that. That being said, I don't think that the Phillies really gave him a fair shake in the way that he was handled both last season and this season, kind of yanked him back and forth between roles. I just think that lack of stability really impeded his growth. But I think there are real reasons to be concerned about his long-term projectability as a mid-rotation starting pitcher. And so did they give up on him too early? I don't know. I actually kind of thought it was a fair deal in that way.
Any of the other guys anybody should know about?
Just in terms of what they were able to get back or what they gave up?
Both. I mean, I know that one of the pitchers in the deal from Texas is one of their better prospects, but what Philadelphia gave up, I mean, I would imagine not Gowdy is somebody I remember was a high pick, but it's kind of been nothing. Gessner is interesting. Wasn't he an international guy?
Yeah, so, I mean, when you look at Kevin Gowdy, who's a former second-round pick, he's had injury issues. A guy that I don't think that the organization is particularly high on at this point. And then what they're getting back from Texas, listen, he's their number 9 ranked prospect for whatever prospect rankings are worth, especially right now. He's a AA. He's a 22-year-old. There's an expectation that he will probably be a major leaguer at some point, maybe in the next year. You'll probably see him in 2022. So, I mean, listen, probably a fair deal. Like, I don't think that the Phillies got fleeced by any means, but the question really is, did they do enough to make a run here with 2 months left?
Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad, covers the Phillies. They also brought back Freddie Galvis. Now, the Phillies and Philadelphia teams in general have a history of loving to bring back old players and bringing them back. Galvis is interesting because he plays short. He can play third. He's also played center. He's also played left. So super utility, is he Scott Kingery?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, listen, it's kind of like a move that you roll your eyes at. You go like, really? Like, are we really doing this? A reunion with Freddie Galvis? This is one of your big deadline moves. But listen, I mean, almost 250 at-bats this season, 720 OPS, 249 batting average. He's popped 9 homers. He's been on the IL for the last month. He's expected back first week of August. So you consider the versatility. He can play a little second, shortstop, third base. He's an upgrade, and you can either use him as a late-inning defensive replacement, or I expect him to probably get some starts here and there. And listen, defensive runs saved is a flawed metric, but if you're going by it, it's something that I know that teams pay attention to. And Didi Gregorius this year, as a point of comparison, had a -9 defensive run save at shortstop. Alec Boehm's had a -12 at third base. Freddie Galvis is -1. He's not an elite defender anymore. He's not going to come in and win a Gold Glove or anything like that. But he is a significant defensive upgrade on the left side of the infield and can probably spot you out in center too.
Right. Obviously, he's on the injured list right now. But when he comes back, you kind of mentioned, but do they have to play him at shortstop over Didi the way – I mean, Galvis was a pretty outstanding defensive player in his time here. Now, as he's aged a little bit, I think he's declined a bit, but he's significantly better at shortstop and third base than what you currently have.
That is absolutely true from a defensive standpoint. And honestly, you can make an argument that he's better offensively than both of those players. And really, I kind of look at it and stack him up next to Didi Gregorius. You talk about the defense and that Freddie Galvis is going to be an upgrade, but just look at the numbers this year. I mean, Didi Gregorius is a 645 OPS right now. He's hitting under 210. And, listen, I don't fancy myself to be a baseball scout, but you do know that I have a little bit of a baseball background that goes beyond just covering the game. And I have to tell you, I sat down at Citizens Bank Park for 6 of the 8 games on that last homestand. And Didi Gregorius right now looks like he's swinging a 2x4. Everything looks slow. I mean, his bat speed has just completely evaporated. And I asked Joe Girardi the other night, is he hurt? Is there an injury component to this? Because I just don't see anything with the swing right now. And Joe says no. But I mean, he just does not look like the same player, and it's not like he's hitting into a lot of hard outs or he's been unlucky. I mean, he just looks completely overmatched right now.
All right, so let me get your opinion then. Does a team with Torreyes and Galvis better than Boehm and Gregorius?
You know what? I think if you use those guys and play matchups, if you have late leads, you're protecting leads in the 6th inning on, I think you can really mix and match and maybe do it that way. You know that Joe Girardi loves to double switch as it is. So I think that there's a way that you can play all of these guys. I think that if you play Ronald Torreyes every single day, you're going to run the risk of overexposing him. And Mike, that certain players, even when they contribute and they bring something to the table for you, and Ronald Torreyes is really giving this team a jolt on a number of occasions. But I think if you run him out there 5 or 6 days a week, he's going to show what he really is. And he's a career utility bench type player.
Right.
So I think that you really want to pick your spots with him.
So Ann Kennedy is the closer. What happens in this bullpen now? I mean, do you, Bob Wankel, think about moving Ranger Suarez into the starting rotation?
Yeah, I think it's something that you at least have to consider in that what we talked about before. I mean, I just don't know how you can go night to night, start to start, and use Matt Moore and Vince Velasquez in this rotation. I think if the answer is getting them out of the rotation, then you have to consider any solution, which includes stretching out Ranger Suarez, stretching out Bailey Falter when he gets back, and giving him a go, which is a tough ask for a young player in the middle of I put this in air quotes, pennant race. But I think that you have to explore all possibilities here. Ian Kennedy, to me, probably should be the closer. I don't think that Ranger Suarez has closer stuff. I think that he has to be too fine. I think that he can be really valuable and a versatile piece for you, but he's not a guy that I want to hand the ball to in the 9th inning every night. It's not something I want to do. So for me, Ian Kennedy has 16 saves this year, striking out a batter over per inning, I should say. So striking out a little over 9 per 9 innings. And he's held opponents to under a 230 batting average this year, and he only has 7 walks in 32 1/3 innings pitched. So he throws strikes. To me, why not? It's what you went out and made the deal for him to do, so let him do it.
All right, tonight it's Real Muto in the leadoff spot. Brad Miller hitting second, so we've already got a little bit of a wonkiness because of some stuff here. Harper third, so I guess that's good news because he had to come out of the lineup yesterday. He's back in. McCutchen 4, Bohm, Gregorius, Chirias is at second tonight. Herrera is in center field. Vince Velasquez, he's got to do better than Chris Sanchez did yesterday, I would imagine. But
I would think so. I mean, listen, Vince Velasquez, I will say this, not somebody I trust, not somebody I'd bet on, not somebody I would want to make another 12 starts down the stretch for me. But on any given night, can Vince Velasquez go out and give you a functional start? Sure. And against a very weak Pirates team, you would expect him to be able to go out and give you 4 or 5 innings and maybe allow 2 or 3 runs and give you at least a shot. And if he can't do it tonight, my guess is that his 116th start in a Phillies uniform will probably be his last.
You didn't like my answer the other day.
What did you say? I missed that.
You asked, would you rather Matt Moore his 10th start or Velasquez 116? I said, I will watch Moore get to 116 if I never have to see Velasquez pitch again.
I honestly, I totally disagree. I cannot tell you if I were a fan.
I just never want to see Velasquez start again. I know Moore sucks. If I have to watch him pitch 106, what would it be? He's thrown 10 starts. He's got
another 97 to go, I guess.
I'd watch him throw 97 more times if I never have to watch Velasquez again. That's how bad I hate Velasquez right now.
107 more Matt Moore starts for you.
Awful.
Yeah, it's not an ideal scenario. And, with the Mets adding Baez and the Braves remaking their outfield today with a number of moves. And then you just said, as we got on air here, that they dealt for Rodriguez as well from Pittsburgh. Is that right?
Atlanta did.
Yeah, Atlanta did. Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of him, to be honest with you. He's a one-pitch guy, and he is definitely the poster child for the sticky stuff leaving the game and the spin rates tumbling and all of that. There's a lot of red flags on him. But, hey, whatever. I mean, the Braves are doing things to try to stay in it after losing Ronald Acuna. They're only 4 games out. The Phillies and Mets let them stick around over the last 8 games. And so why not take a stab at it?
Well, that's what I was going to say, Bob, is, last week, gloom and doom, back and forth. Here we are on this Friday, and there's still only 3.5 games out. This feels very Gabe Kapler-esque back when he was, and they were like, well, there's still only 3.5 games out. But the whole weird thing about that was you never believed in those teams. They went out and got Harper with the thought of, we'll get a guy here that would make you believe because this guy's and that hasn't helped either.
Yeah, it's kind of it's weird. They're 3.5 games out, and it's funny what one game can do for you, because if they go out and get swept in that doubleheader yesterday and lose 3 out of 4 to the Washington Nationals, a team that came into Philadelphia with the worst record in baseball in the month of July at 5-15, and a team that's in the middle of a fire sale and had 4 players out on Thursday with COVID, I just don't know how you can justify really doing anything at the deadline at that point. It's like you showed what you are. But they showed a lot of resolve in coming back against an absolutely dreadful bullpen yesterday to salvage a split. And listen, it's a weak division. If Bryce Harper gets hot to the point where he can carry this team for 10, 14-day stretch, JT Realmuto kind of shakes off what's been a sluggish 3 weeks, and they just get this lineup firing a little bit, things can get weird. Stranger things have happened. I don't believe in this team. I think that they'll stay in it. I think we've talked about this before. I expect them to have a puncher's chance going into the second half of September. But ultimately, I don't believe that there's enough here for them to finally end this playoff drought.
I would agree. And they didn't do it today. And by the way, they did not we didn't hear anything about Hoskins. So I'm imagining no calls or no effort to move him.
No, listen, he's out of lineup tonight. I think he tweaked his groin or his oblique yesterday late. I think that if you're going to do one of those franchise-altering moves that we talked about, which is something I really believe is going to be in play this offseason, especially if this current core kind of just, stays on the same plane that they've been now for a couple of years. But it's really hard to do those types of deals in the middle of the season. So many different variables have to come together.
Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad. It was a positive vibe early, and then it went south. Covers the Phillies there tonight in Pittsburgh against the dreadful Pirates. 3.5 back of the Mets. Trade deadline moves. We'll see what happens. Bob, have a great weekend, man.
Talk to you soon, Mike.
All right, Bob Wankel's back Monday, recapping the Phillies weekend in Pittsburgh. It is Vince Velasquez on the mound tonight, so anticipation would not be positive. When we come back, the PT's here. It's Happy Hour Friday. Hey, Happy Hour Friday's here. Why don't you text me what is on your Happy Hour Friday beverage list? 609-403-0973. What are you drinking on Happy Hour Friday? Let's get this party started. I'm back with the PT next. All right, final hour of the show. It's Happy Hour Friday here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. The PT is back. Yes, I'm back. I wasn't here last Friday. PT wasn't here last Friday either. You were in Omaha.
Middle America.
But you are back here on the Sports Bash Happy Hour Friday. Peter.
Michael, Middle America. Yeah, it was a good time out there. It's good to be back. It is nice to be back.
It is good to be back here. You know what's funny? Susie Hunter, who does our show, she's the girl that's going to every.
I was watching earlier. Yeah, I saw.
She, I think, was in Lincoln, Nebraska, while she was going from Denver to Minnesota. I think one of her stops was in Lincoln.
Well, I-80 is a pretty major thoroughfare that goes through a lot of states, so I could see why she might be, crossing up out of Denver to get out that way and through Lincoln to get out that way. I mean, really, baseball-wise, I think they have the Salt Dogs as like a minor league Lincoln team, and they play if I'm not mistaken, they play at the same place where the Husker baseball team plays. So, yeah, but nevertheless, I did see that she was on there. I hope she's continuing her tour and having a good time. And
she went from Minnesota to Chicago to Wrigley and then out to Cleveland.
So she went to Wrigley before the Cubs got rid of all their players. Yep. I mean, my God.
Big trade deadline today, PT. Phillies brought Freddie Galvis back, brought in Kyle Gibson and Kennedy, all for the price of Spencer Howard and a couple of other guys. So feel any better today about the Fightins than you did when we had lunch today?
Well, they took a chance. I mean, and I heard you say, I mean, look, they made some moves. That's good. And I like the fact that Gibson's an all-star. I like the fact that Kennedy can provide them some depth in their bullpen, and Howard, I was ready. I feel like I was ready to give up on him anyway. He just wasn't able to figure out what his role was, or they weren't able to figure out what he was good at. I mean, so ship him off somewhere else and take a chance. The Galvis thing surprised me a little bit because I like Ronald Torreyes, but Ronald Torreyes is no Freddie Galvis. Freddie Galvis is an established Major League Baseball player, and Torreyes has just been a nice story this season. So that's one thing to watch, I think, moving forward if he cuts into some of Torreyes' playing time. But my biggest takeaway is that the Phillies did what they had to do, but so did the Mets and so did the Braves. I mean, it's not like anybody's giving any ground here in this NL East, including the people that are in front, because Javi Baez, I mean, come on, that's the big splash, I think, that the Mets make. And then the Nationals rolled over and said, here, Dodgers, take everything you want. You want Trey Turner? You want Scherzer? Sure, here you go. Just have them.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies obviously aren't playing on the same stage as those guys are right now. That's evident. I mean, the question is, did they give up on Howard too early? Did they get enough to kind of stick in pace with the Mets and the Braves? They were in a really tough spot, man. I didn't envy Dombrowski.
They had to do something. I mean, I think they had to do something. You're doing your fan base a disservice if you are entering the trade deadline 3.5 back in a weak division where you have a chance to actually make the playoffs. Now, that said, I mean, I hinted at the Dodgers a minute ago and how good they are, the NL West. I mean, good Lord, like right before the dead, like 3:59 and 30 seconds, the Giants pick up Chris Bryant, right? So, I mean, and I was riveted. I got to tell you, there's not been very many times that the PT has sat there and said, let me bounce back and forth between MLB Network and ESPN, back, forth, just to see what these guys are talking about. And I was totally into it because I think I counted, Gill, 10 All-Stars. There were 10 All-Stars from this year that are no longer on the team that they were an All-Star for at the All-Star break. That's incredible. We've never had anything like that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Look, I said he was in a tough spot. Dombrowski was. He tried to do something. He gave up on Howard. I mean, and I said this, I think a week or two ago. I don't remember, but I said my fear is the Phillies didn't know what to do with Howard. He's going to go someplace else,
and they'll know what to do
with him. And he's going to turn into not a Cy Young Award winner, not an ace of his staff, but a solid number 2 or 3 guy that you're going to be looking back on and saying, oh, my God, they knew what to do with him. The Phillies bungled this Howard thing. They completely bungled it. Now, that said, if they didn't know how to untangle the bungle, Well, then you got two pieces, one of which you have this year and next year with Kyle Gibson. The
Right.
Kennedy thing, though, he's going to be gone. He's a 36-year-old closer who's likely going to be out of here now.
Yeah, that's a rental. But the Gibson thing, it's interesting on MLB Network as they went around the horn for winners and losers. You know, everybody was going for winner, winner, winner. There was one loser named. Would you like to know who the loser was? The Phillies, Gibson. I'm trying to remember the analyst who said it, but he basically was saying that, look, his last three starts, he has struggled at the Rangers ballpark where it's a, pitcher friendly park. When he gets to the not so friendly confines of Citizens Bank Park, his numbers are going to go even worse. And I'm thinking like, that's just, give the guy a chance to throw a pitch first before you rip him. But hey, they had to rip somebody. And not for nothing too, we haven't talked about the fact that the Braves, like when Acuna got hurt, I basically wrote the Braves off, and they went out today and got Soler, Rosario, and Duvall 3 bats. So, I mean, they're basically also saying.
And a closer. They went out and got Richard Rodriguez.
Right. Bring out your dead. Well, I'm not dead yet. That's scene of Monty Python. Bring out your dead. I'm not dead yet.
Yep.
Get on the cart. You're dead.
Nope. Obviously, you look at a guy. You look at what the Braves did, and they got a couple of guys that help them out. A closer that helps their bullpen. They went and got, as you mentioned, the 3 bats. The Phillies essentially said, "Look, here's the problem the Phillies have. Their farm system didn't have anything to help them get anything."
I agree with that. I mean, so if you factor that in, then you have to be even more impressed that Dombrowski was able to do anything, quite frankly, because, that tweet came early. The whole idea of like, hey, if you were thinking you were going to get Craig Kimbrell, the asking price was Mick Abel. Whoop, that's it. Done with that. That was like their one prospect that they had down there. So Kimbrell instead goes across. That's an easy commute, right? You go from the north side to the south side and bingo, bango, bongo. You might have the White Sox and the Dodgers in the World Series.
Well, the Dodgers certainly made their push. They went out and got obviously Scherzer and Turner last night, and big stuff today. Where did Bryant go? Chris Bryant, he went to the Giants. Right. So Gabe Kapler gets, boy. Now, what is it? What is your thoughts on the fact that Gabe Kapler has the best record in baseball?
He's a genius. He's the greatest manager. Nah, come on. I guess he finally has talent, right? And he's a
not really. That team is not like they were not a prohibitive favorite at all to win that division.
It is a little bizarre that this is happening. I am chuckling too because I just thought, boy, if Chris Bryant's there, does that mean that Darren Ruff gets less at bats now?
Darren Ruff. Well, Darren Ruff's not playing third base, is he?
I know, but I'm just thinking of left-handed, different hitters that they have in the lineup. I saw that the other day, and I just started chuckling, like Gabe Kapler just picking off old pieces of trash that he could like renovate back into something.
By the way, 2 emails from the Phillies. Both trades are now official. They're also getting cash from the Orioles. So it is Spencer Howard and minor league pitchers Kevin Gowdy, Josh Gessner.
Okay.
For Kyle Gibson and closer Ann Kennedy and Hans Kraus. And then Freddie Galvis and about $4 million for Tyler Birch.
Yeah, I saw that $4 million come in on one of the tweets too. Maybe it was Salisbury or somebody, but that says something too that they wanted to get some money back. And look, we're in a down year, right? We're in a, the Phillies will take anything they can to provide some relief, I suppose. I look at it like this: Dombrowski had to make a move. He had to do something. It's a disservice to your players if you're that close to winning a division and you don't do anything. And he got the best that he could, and we'll see if it pans out.
Yeah. All right, PT. That's the Phillies. They made a couple of trades today. Last night at the draft, Ben Simmons was not traded. Were you watching the draft with anticipation and hope that last night was the end of the Ben Simmons era?
This is how my whole take on the draft was. Number one, I couldn't remember what pick the Sixers had. So at first I thought, like, are they 13? And I watched like the tracker go by, and No, they weren't 13. They were a little farther down than that, PT. Then I'm watching and I see like they're all the way near the end of the first round. Okay. So I'm thinking like, well, I'm not even going to watch this damn draft unless, my phone lights up with something going on. And it never did. And when we got done watching the show, we were watching on the DVR. I said, well, it's about 11:30, it's getting close here. Let's see where we're at. And there's my boy, Kevin Nagandi, hosting the draft on 6 ABC. That was cool. Nice little suit for Jalen Rose there. And it was the Sixers' turn. And they got the guy that they got. And I had to look him up and didn't know anything about him. And no Ben Simmons. Was I surprised that Ben Simmons didn't go anywhere? Not when I started, as I was watching the show, if Susan would get up to use the bathroom and I could sneak a quick peek at my phone without getting yelled at, I would see that the asking price was ridiculous. I mean, apparently what they asked for the Warriors for, or the things that the pieces that they were asking, which then says to me, do you really want to move the guy, Gill? Well, heck yeah. But do they really want to? They don't want to get robbed blind either, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. The whole Simmons thing. I have kind of phrased it like this, Peter. They're not going to move Ben Simmons to be different. They're going to move him to get better. In other words, I could get Andrew Wiggins to come here and I might score more. He might score more, but he doesn't defend a lick. So we're not better. We're just different. We have a guy that can score more who doesn't defend. So they're not really looking to get different. They're looking to get better. And I don't know that a trade to get them better is out there right now.
Well, I'm sure you weren't surprised that he wasn't moved last night either, were you? I mean, given what you thought the asking or the reports of what the asking prices were, that shouldn't have surprised you that he didn't move last night.
Oh, no, I didn't anticipate, because I think the only way that Daryl Morey's going to move him is if he gets Beal or if he gets Lillard or something like that. Or, they made offers that were, hey, we'll take this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And these teams are saying, no way. Right. Whatever offer they're getting from someone, he's going to say no.
Yeah. So what were your odds now that the draft is come and gone? Ben Simmons is still a member of the Sixers. What are your thoughts on him being a member of the Sixers when the season starts?
60 yes, 40 no.
See, I mean, that's the thing. Isn't it crazy how the narrative that we like to do is that, well, Zach Ertz has played his final game as an Eagle. Hey, guess who's in camp? Well, Ben Simmons, there's no way that guy can come back. You until the person actually gets the deal, you can't write them off and say oh, for sure they're leaving.
Yeah, look, I don't care if Ben Simmons gets traded. I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm not like, this guy has to stay here. But don't just do it to do it. Don't just do it to make the team different. Do it to make the team better.
Isn't the bigger story on the Sixers right now, too, that Joel Embiid has some knee issues and they're not talking about it? Isn't that the big thing that we're not talking about right now?
Does he have? I mean, I don't know. They said that he's been working out and he's fine. I don't know. They've always been a little wishy-washy with the injuries, right?
Right. I mean, we all remember he played with that slight little tear in his right knee, and, the reporters are trying to get their answers. And
don't you think he would have gotten surgery by now if he needed it?
You would think. One would think. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess just the fact that they haven't said anything about it is making headlines. I don't know. I mean, Jaden Springer's not going to lead your article, right? That's not going to be your clickbait, right? So at the same time, you got to put something else.
Jaden Springer, by the way, is a first-team All-SEC freshman, 12.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, 2.9 assists, 1.2 steals, very efficient on the offensive end. He led the team in three-point shooting, 43%, 81% of his free throws last year as well. And he's a very good defensive player, that Jaden Springer.
Yeah, now see, that seems to tell me that, again, the philosophy of both Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey is you can never have enough good defense-first players. Ben Simmons is a defense-first player, but, didn't you tell me at lunch that you liked the guy at 53?
I like Charles Basserly. He was from Western Kentucky.
Okay.
3.1 blocks per game. 16 points, 10.5 rebounds, just an athletic guy, jumps out of the gym, but block shots. I think he could probably come in and defend almost right away. He could probably slide in behind Joel Embiid.
August 9th, Sixers open summer league play against the Mavericks. You
Can't
can watch
wait,
these
baby.
guys.
Can't wait.
I know you love that summer league.
I'll be all over it. Flyers have been kind of remade.
Oh my gosh. I mean, when I was on vacation and I wrote a column out there when I was out in Omaha, and I had to kind of keep holding off just to make sure that, like, hey, is it done yet? Is it over yet? Like, have they done everything that they needed to do? And I think they signed Keith Yandel when I was out there. They got the backup goalie and Martin Jones, and they're bringing back my cousin, Nate Thompson. No relation.
Any relation, PT?
No relation. But look, I mean, you got to give Chuck Fletcher a lot of credit because he understood, as other people told me last year, that there was a problem in the room. Direct quote from somebody close to the Flyers organization. What's wrong with the Flyers? In a nutshell, something's wrong in the room. I can't put my finger on it, but something's wrong in the room. And when Chuck Fletcher came out and then said, our culture was wrong in the room or something was, I was like, oh my God, that's almost like the exact phrase that the person told me that then I told you. So we'll see. Look, I like the Ryan Ellis move. I like that a lot. Ristolainen, there's some hit or miss on if his attitude and where his head's at, but the guy is a better than average NHL player and can certainly move the puck and do some things. And then Keith Yandel. So, I mean, they basically rotated out half their defensive core to bring in guys that actually know how to play defense, and Ryan Ellis, Ristolainen, and now Keith Yandel. But I mean, are they going to be able to put the puck in the net? Cam Atkinson, Nate Thompson's not a puck in the net guy. All he is a glue guy on the fourth line. So you're really also thinking like, hey, Travis Konecny, can you go back to the form that you had the season before? Oscar Lindblom, now that you're a year plus removed from your Ewing sarcoma and all that stuff, can you get back to the hope that they thought you were going to be before? But I mean, there's a lot. And then the biggest thing, of course, that I didn't even touch on as I'm running through the roster, the guy in the pipes are you going to get actual Carter Hart that was like the phenom in his first full season? Or are you going to get Carter Hart last year that really looked lost? I mean, do you blame that on the defense or you blame that on the guy? And I think the guy had some issues last year.
Well, okay. So the goalie that they brought in, Martin Jones, does that tell you that they have trust in Carter Hart because they got a lesser backup goalie than what they had last year?
Yeah, and I think they do. I mean, the thing about Jones is that, I mean, he was in a Stanley Cup final in 2016. That's a long time ago. That's 5 years plus that it's been there. And I mean, sometimes you need a guy that doesn't threaten you. Not that Moose Elliott threatened Carter Hart, but they had no problem throwing him in there. I think that this is a sign they're trying to tell him, look, you get back to what you are, and we believe in you. And there's guys out there, and I saw like Brian Boucher was talking about this, that you could have gone out and gotten Peter Mrazek or Frederick Anderson or somebody else, and that's going to be a guy that's sort of like a 1A or a 1B, and sort of threaten the guy. I don't think there's any part where Carter Hart's going to be threatened by Martin Jones, a 31-year-old Martin Jones. I don't think he's going to be.
Oh, no, right. I'm saying that's what my point is. The fact that they brought in a guy who, like with Brian Elliott, he was almost good enough to start for you. The problem was he was too old to start every single night. But
correct.
I'm saying we have enough physically Carter Hart that we don't need a guy that we think has to play so much.
Yep. I think, it's sort of like an endorsement. Sure, there's the word we're looking for, a vote of confidence. They gave Carter Hart a vote of confidence, but now it's on Carter Hart to get back to playing better hockey, quite frankly, And he's instantly better with the three defensemen that they brought in. That's another thing, too. Look, I love Robert Haig as long as I love Robert Haig. I thought the guy was a great hockey player, but he wasn't Ryan Ellis, okay? I would have gladly myself driven Shane Gostisbehere to the airport. So that's why they basically, sold Shane Gostisbehere to get rid of him. And then who was the third guy? Phil Myers went in one of the deals. And Phil Myers is an up and coming, but Phil Myers, I thought, had regressed last year. So there's three of your defense core that are out for what I think are 3 improvements coming back in. That's got to help Hart.
Happy Hour Friday. It was good to see you at lunch, Peter.
Yeah, that was a nice lunch, wasn't it? I had a very good time, and because of the new lesser me, I'm going to have that for dinner too. Had a little bit for lunch, going to have the rest for dinner.
I like that. Well, that's good. We had a nice lunch today. Hopefully we do that again before the summer ends. And what do you got planned this weekend? Anything good?
Oh my gosh, I'm so busy this weekend. I'm going out to the Jim Whalen Around the Island swim. So, that big event is finally back, and it took a long time. It got postponed because of COVID and all that last year. So, almost like when Jimmy Johnson had his fishing tournament in, you got to have the captain's meeting, then you have the actual event, then you have the party afterwards. It's one of those deals. So I'll be there tomorrow night for the pre-thing, and then Sunday morning, I think it's 7:00. When the old PT wasn't getting up at 7:00 if I had to. But, yeah, I'm going out for that. It should be a fun time.
Pete Thompson, happy hour.
I should point out, I am not swimming around the island. I'm going out to observe and cover and help out. I am not swimming around the island. Good. Nor am I floating.
All right, Peter, have a good weekend.
See you, buddy.
Happy Hour Friday here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And, of course, you can watch the show live, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. That's Pete Thompson. Could always have him on the Friday. Happy Hour Friday here, brought to you by JCPenney. Stock up on store-wide doorbusters. Why they last. You can score first-class deals before they're gone. Weekdays are back in style. JCPenney. All right, all the football news you need with Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, Eagles, 97.3 ESPN.com. Mike Gill, Sports Bash. You out there. No Josh tonight on game night. We got the lifeguard races down in Wildwood tonight with Schweimer. Josh is back tomorrow, though, with a highly anticipated Sports Bash Saturday. Kayla Harrison from the PFL and Brian Toporek from Forbes. Talking a little NBA. Tomorrow, 12:40, 1:20 are those two conversations. Make sure you make an appointment. Every Saturday, Sports Bash Saturday, here on the Sports Bash. Live and local weekends with Tom P., my man over at Rack and Fin. Best of the Sports Bash. Faith on the Field, by the way. Faith on the Field tomorrow. A new show with Rob Motti. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Tomorrow, he's got Trevor Lawrence on the show, the first-round pick, first overall pick. That starts at 8 a.m., half hour every Saturday and Sunday, 30 minutes, Faith on the Field. Trevor Lawrence is Rob Motti's guest tomorrow here on 97.3 ESPN, followed by Best of the Sports Bash, and then the Locker Room, Billy Schweim, Sports Bash Saturday. We got you covered. We are 97.3 ESPN. All right, Friday edition, 529, Sports Bash Live, 97.3, ESPN, driving you home on a Friday. Jeff Kerr is here. We're going to talk a little NFL, Eagles, everything. Of course, CBS Sports. Get all your Eagles at 97.3, ESPN.com. All the Eagles camp updates and news and notes you need. Jeff Kerr at Jeff Kerr CBS, and he is here on a Sports Bash Friday to go over all of the details of what happened today over at camp and what's going on this week. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Hey, Mike, been a pretty interesting couple of days for the Eagles. Not as much drama as the NFC East is going through right now, but for the Eagles, it's I guess you could say it's business as usual. I guess it's the normal storylines. Unlike, we're not talking about vaccines. We're not talking about cutting players because they're overweight. It's kind of relaxing, honestly.
Well, let's first start something out of Eagles camp that has something to do with the Eagles, and that's Carson Wentz and this foot injury here and how that could affect the Eagles and what we know about this foot problem and how long it could keep him out for.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Mike, it's not looking good for him. He keeps seeing foot specialist, Dr. Robert Anderson. I believe that's who he's seeing. He's one of the best in the business when it comes to this. And so if he's going to him, you really have to wonder, how long is this guy going to be out for? And it doesn't look like he's going to be coming back anytime soon. I mean, I tweeted earlier today, out indefinitely on July 30th. Doesn't mean much to me, but it doesn't look like he's going to be back in like 2 or 3 weeks or anything. I'm expecting minimum the entire preseason.
All right, so that could affect the Eagles because, as we know, Jeff, he needs to play 75% of the snaps for them to get a first-round pick, or 70% of the snaps if the Colts make the playoffs. So, I don't know. If they don't get a first-round pick, do you look back at that trade and wonder, or you say, I can't think about that? You know, you moved on from it.
Well, I got to look at it this way. If Carson Wentz is out, say, half the year, and the Colts don't make the playoffs, you probably got a high second-round pick for a guy that really didn't do much for him. And, I don't believe in the injury-prone label with any player, but Carson Wentz does get injured a lot. And I don't know how you tweak your foot 2 days in the camp when you're wearing shells and shorts. So that's really confusing to me. It's, it's just unfortunate that the Eagles probably won't get that third first-round pick, but that's okay. I mean, if you get a high second-round pick out of the deal, I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, Mike Silver reported that it involves a bone and a ligament and that he will undergo surgery in the near future. He's going to see a foot specialist to establish a firmer timeline, but the organization is kind of taking solace in the fact that there's 6 weeks away from week 1, and they're hoping that he can be ready for that. So we shall see. All right, let's go over to Eagles camp because the last couple of days, today they had a lot of guys sitting out resting, but let's go with Devonta Smith. And, what we've seen from him the first couple of days in practice. He admitted his first day wasn't very good. He had a couple drops. Now, today, 4 touchdowns, seemed to be getting the hang of this wide receiver thing.
Yeah, I just followed the story to CBS Sports.com over this, and it was more what Darius Slay has been helping out Devonta Smith with. And yesterday, Devonta Smith had the 80-yard touchdown over Steven Nelson and Kayvon Wall. I got to get used to saying Steve Nelson. He prefers to be Steve, not Steven. But that's okay. But Devonta Smith has had his moments. But if you're looking at how he's doing against Darius Slay, man, the 3-time Pro Bowler is just owning the rookie over these last couple days. And, that's to be expected, obviously. Devonta Smith has only practiced 3 times. And, Darius Slay's been doing this for 8 years now. And he's been really good at doing it. So
what's more concerning, the fact that what's the bigger thing here? That he's having trouble with Slay, or that maybe Slay had a down year and is reinvigorated and playing well?
I think it could be both, Mike, honestly. I think Darius Slay has I'm trying to think of the term, been around the barnyard, I guess. I guess that's the phrase for it, but he's been there before, and he probably knows every little nook and cranny Devonta Smith's going to do. But this is one thing I liked what Darius Slay said about him. He said, this guy always has a plan, and he knows what I'm going to do if I'm lined up on the inside or lined up on the outside. And he, has his moves, and, he said he's a really intelligent football player, and he's willing to learn a lot. And Darius Slay is willing to help him. He said, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to hide anything from him. And, those two talk a lot. And Slay's getting tips from Devonta Smith as well. Those two are helping each other get better, and I think it's going to benefit both of them as Slay looks for a bounce back year, and Devonta Smith wants to prove he was worth the 10th overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, I know that everybody's going to have their eyes on Smith, but what about his partner on the other side, Jalen Reagor? What's the feel there?
Well, Jalen Reagor, we haven't seen much of him. He's failed the conditioning test. There were reasons for that. The death of a close friend of his. That didn't help, and I guess he's been not in the zone, but he's practicing in the individual portion of practice. What worries me is he's not getting off to this great start of camp. If you really want to be honest, we're only in helmets and shells, but this isn't the start Jalen Reagor should be under right now, Mike.
Right, because a lot of people, Jeff, had anticipated, hey, he's a bounce-back guy. He's the kind of guy, hey, look for a breakout for year number 2, and he comes in, he's already failed the physical. So did Dallas Goedert. Any reason why there?
Yeah, did you hear about that? I don't know if you got the whole story on that, but apparently Dallas Goedert ran the wrong way in this conditioning test, and when you do that, you fail. So it's one of those, like, how the U.S. 4x400 relay team, I don't know if you read about this, Mike, how they showed the video of it, but they took the baton too late or something like that. They were trying to cheat the system, and they ended up getting DQ'd. That's pretty much what Dallas Goedert did.
All right, so this isn't him coming in fat and happy. He just was a bonehead.
Yeah, pretty much. And, I would love to hear Dallas Goedert's comments on it, but because I'm like, wow, how do you, screw that up? But, I guess you and I could do that, too.
Most likely, yes. We would probably be running the wrong direction. All right, let's look at what we know at left tackle after a couple of practices. It would have seemed, Jeff, and you can probably speak more of this, no one has established himself. This battle will go into the 3 preseason games.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff Stoutland admitted as such, don't make too much of Andre Dillard being the starter on the first day, because he said him and Jordan Mailata are going to rotate. Well, Jordan Mailata was the starter on the second day. And pretty much from what I've gathered, and I love what I think it was Lane Johnson who said it. I'm trying to remember what offensive lineman said it. Might have been Lane. I'm trying to remember which player said what here. Oh no, it was Ryan Kerrigan. That's right. Ryan Kerrigan said he really likes both players, and he said they both are going to be tremendous talents in this league. So that's good to hear. I know that's team speak, but he's a defensive end. He's going up against these guys, and he's been around the league. If Ryan Kerrigan says that, I feel a lot better about both of these players at this point. But you're right, Mike. I don't think we're going to know who the starting left tackle of this team is until they prepare for the first game of the season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we're going to see – it'll be interesting to see how they play these 3 preseason games. Remember, there's only 3, but are you going to put 2 potential starting guys out there for a half each or rotate them through series? How they kind of play those guys in games, that will be interesting. Let me ask you this, Jeff. If Seumalo is week to week, Herbig right now apparently is playing left guard. Does Herbig have a shot to win that job if he performs well and keeps Seumalo on the bench?
So I actually asked John McMullen this today, and because John McMullen he comes on Bird 6'5" every day, and I asked him straight up, is Nate Herbig?
I've heard of him before.
Yeah. I was going to say, you know him pretty well. And he goes, Jeff, don't look too much into this. They really like Isaac Seumalo. Isaac Seumalo is going to be the starting left guard of this football team, but they do like Nate Herbig. Nate Herbig is a valuable backup for them, but don't worry about Isaac. They really like Isaac Seumalo. He's going to be fine. They're really high on him.
All right, so the other question, I guess, would be Landon Dickerson. What do we know about his status and where he might you already have an injury at left guard. Brandon Brooks is out at right guard. Dickerson's not ready to go. What do we know about where he is?
Well, from everything I've gathered, this year is, I don't want to call it a redshirt year for Landon Dickerson, but it kind of is because they drafted him to replace either A. Jason Kelsey or B. Brandon Brooks down the line. And I have a feeling it's probably going to be Jason Kelsey because Jason Kelsey's going to retire. Brandon Brooks still has a lot of football left to be played, but I think they are going to show him the center position and the right guard position just to have all their boundaries covered there. So this year, I am not expecting Landon Dickerson to see the football field that much.
Jalen Hurts. I'm reading a stat. This is Jalen Hurts' last 2 practices, 25 of 30 with 5 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and no interceptions. After maybe a shaky first day, it seems that Hurts has kind of settled in and really taken command of this offense. I say that knowing that Nick Sirianni today had to stop practice and essentially tell everybody, we are not crisp enough. Details, everybody.
Yeah, and the players seem to have responded to that. I think they kind of liked how their coach called them out because it seemed they finished practice really well. I kind of like that about Nick Sirianni, honestly. He's being honest with these guys. He is trying to be their friend, but at the same time, he's also showing some discipline here. Be like, look, guys, this is unacceptable. And I knew everybody blew up the Derek Gunn tweet today where they have a long way to go before week one. And Barrett Brooks said, look, I was standing right next to him. I don't know what he's talking about. I see a team that's hungry, that's fresh. And so I guess it's just a matter of perspective from, and Derek Gunn's been around a long time, but Barrett Brooks has been in the league. So, we know how this all works. But, yeah, it seemed like once you took Jalen Hurts out of those red zone packages that favor cornerbacks, it really started to open up the field for him, and he's been taking advantage of it. I saw a couple times where Jalen Hurts was able to extend the play and had nice footwork outside the pocket, and that's what Nick Sirianni is watching. He specifically said, we are not working on his arm. We think his arm is fine. It's the footwork. It's the legs. It's him understanding the protections. That's what they're focusing on with Jalen Hurts right now, and seems to be working for him.
I want to get your take on the Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett battle, I guess you could say.
I was going to mention this to you before we came on. Yeah, we probably should talk about this. I think Derek Barnett's going to be the third down guy. I really do. And that's not a bad thing. I just think they're going to rotate those two around. I think Josh Sweat is better suited for those first or second downs, and Derek Barnett can be that guy. He can go after the quarterback on third downs. And, I think ultimately Barnett might end up playing more snaps because you can move him around on both sides of the field. I don't know if you can do that with Josh Sweat yet, but Derek Barnett as a third down pass rusher sounds really intriguing.
Zack Mcpherson, I'm interested in that battle as well. Not battle, I guess, but now that he doesn't have to get thrusted into the starting role because you got Nelson, it seems that he's getting a different look, and it's been encouraging.
My stock on Zack McPherson went way up when they signed Steve Nelson, just because you didn't have to force him in there. That was the one thing I didn't want to see. This kid just get absolutely owned in camp in the preseason and the regular season because the Eagles decided to, I'll borrow a Phillies term, not go over the luxury tax because they didn't want to get a second corner. Well, they did get one, and all of a sudden Devontae Max looks better in the slot, and Devontae Max seems happy, and he's helping Zack McPherson out. And Darius Slay and Steve Nelson. Zack McPherson gets to do what young draft picks, especially mid-round draft picks, should be doing, learning.
Hey, this is going to be kind of off the beaten path, maybe. Get your opinion. Davion Taylor, expectations?
I didn't have any going into the year. It's, if someone would have asked me to name, like, the Eagles linebackers on the depth chart, Davion Taylor probably would have been 5th or 6th. Like, it's just not out of a random order because you kind of forgot about the guy. He pretty much barely got on the field last year. He definitely didn't get on defense, but man, has he looked impressive these first 2 days. And we were talking about this with McMullen, believe it or not, about Davion Taylor. And, I kept saying, okay, the Eagles are going to rush multiple guys. Like, they're going to not rush 4 anymore because there's going to be certain blitz packages. Who is going to be that Anthony Barr type player that you see go after the passer? And John McMullen goes, how about Davion Taylor? And I said, that's a good point. Like, because they didn't really have a guy like that. It was probably him or Ryan Kerrigan. That, I would have guessed Ryan Kerrigan to start, but Davion Taylor, he's not in there because he's a high draft pick that the Eagles invested in. He's in with those guys because he's outperforming his competition right now. Oh, and Alex Singleton's been out, so.
Yeah, he is out. So that gives Taylor a chance to kind of get in there. Eric Wilson. A lot of interesting storylines. Those are just a few. At Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, 97.3 ESPN. When the Eagles news happens, we'll be all over it right here on the Sports Bath with Jeff Kerr. And, of course, he's back on Monday with the Eagles weekend. They've got that Saturday night practice, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think it's a later practice. They don't practice Sunday. So it's a later practice Saturday, and then I think it's back to the normal schedule on Monday.
All right, and then, of course, August 12th, you can hear the Eagles open the preseason against the Pittsburgh Steelers right here on 97.3 ESPN. I actually won't be here on the 12th. I will be traveling the 12th, and the Eagles will open up the 12th. So we'll have more news, of course, as we lead up to that game. But August 12th leads it all off. Eagles, Steelers, right here on your home for Eagles football, 97.3 ESPN. Jeff Kerr, everybody. Jeff, have a great weekend, man.
Yep, you too, Mike. Have a good weekend. Safe travels.
All right, Jeff Kerr is back, of course, on Monday. We'll have plenty more as we get ready to get into the football season. The Hall of Fame game is next weekend, so we'll have live football back. Brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. It is Happy Hour Friday. Oh, we're going to wrap up the show. What are you guys doing on this Happy Hour Friday? We have the trade deadline. We have the draft. We have Eagles football. We had a busy week of Flyers. You probably need a cold one. Tell me, what is on your Happy Hour Friday menu right now? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. You know, I got to give, I was in Altoona, PA last week. And why I am not recommending take a week of vacation to Altoona, PA. Very great, nice place. Not a vacation spot. They had Drake's Kickback. I found Drake's Kickback. I had to drive to Altoona, PA to find it, but I found the Drake's Kickback. Has anybody found me the Drake's Kickback yet? What are you drinking on this Happy Hour Friday? Let me know. Leave it on the text board. 609-403-0973. Maybe some hard alcohol people have out there on this crazy, crazy Friday edition. Take care.
Genic, I can hear you. You hear everything clearly on my end? All right, so when the next segment is done, make sure Billy and all whoever's with him are on their mics, and we'll just do mic checks and adjustments then. But I would just suggest whatever mic Billy is on, set to 10 o'clock, and everybody else around 11 or 12.
All right, this is how we'll end this Happy Hour Friday. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Josh Henning is my producer. No game night tonight. Billy Schweim in the locker room is giving you live coverage out in Wildwood for the lifeguard race. The lifeguard race is back, a South Jersey tradition. Next 3 Fridays, Billy will be in Wildwood, Margate, and then Longport. And you get all the details tomorrow on the locker room. He does the beach report every Saturday, and that's a great feature to have for the local community here. Very local, something very different and unique to our area are the lifeguard races. Billy does a great job covering those. So that's tonight at 6 o'clock. You can hear them right here, right after the Sports Bash here. It's Happy Hour Friday. We asked you to tell us, what are you having on Happy Hour Friday? Now, you can text in 609-403-0973 and tell us what you're having on this Happy Hour Friday. Now, you said you had quite a collection of Happy Hour Friday beverages last week while I was gone. Now, so far, got a couple texts coming in right now. Danky Jr. IPA from Glasstown Brewery. I'm imagining, I think Glasstown's out in Millville.
Yes.
I think that's a local IPA brewery. Danky Jr. IPA. I might have to try that one out. Sounds kind of trippy.
Yeah. It's also one of those things where, like, when you're not here, I will fully admit I am not the connoisseur of beer that you are, but I am a social drinker by nature. So I like to know what other people are drinking.
It's funny because I'll tell you a quick story. We're in Altoona, and, of course, I'm beer snobbish. I have to have my specific beers.
Yes, you do.
So we go to a Total Wines and Liquor.
Okay.
I walk in. It's like 9:58. They close at 10. And I realize they don't have beer at the liquor stores in Pennsylvania. You can only buy liquor at the liquor store.
Oh, no.
No beer. You have to buy beer at, say, the supermarket or CVS or Sheetz. So we go to Sheetz, and I'm looking around. I said, well, the beer selection here sucks. The next day, went to a place called the Brew Zoo. It was like a beer store. And there it was. A 6-pack of Drake's Kickback. The only one the guy had. He said, I found it sitting on a case of Bud Light. Just a little 6-pack. I said, holy bleep, you've got Drake's Kickback. And he said, it's the last one, man. I picked it up. I had a Drake's Kickback after each game because I needed it. By the way, Tom in Margate says, hi, Mike. I'm a dark beer fan. Schmidwick Ale, if I can find it. Schmittix is what the gentleman's trying to tell me. And if Velasquez has a shaky start, I might add some Irish whiskey or Scotch Salute. I like that.
Yeah, he chimed in last week.
Salute!
He was one of the guys who chimed in last week.
So he says he's a dark beer fan. There's a beer, I've only seen it at one place down here. I'm trying to remember the name. Oh, Kilkenny. A Kilkenny.
Okay.
It's like a light version of it's kind of Guinnessy, but a lighter version of Guinness. It's called Kilkenny.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what do you got? What do you got for me?
So last week, some of the options that people gave us, because like I said, I like to see what people are drinking. So we got someone said they drink a Corona Premier on the beach, then tequila at night.
Corona Premier. That is like I'm not a big Corona guy. You like Corona. I got you Corona for my party.
Yeah, I like Corona Light, but Corona Premier I think is a little too thin.
Corona Premier, so that would be like for if you're watching your calories.
Extra watching your calories, yeah. It's only like 20 calories less, I think, than Corona Light.
Gotcha.
But it all adds up. You also got somebody said they were drinking Honey Jack with water.
Honey Jack with water. Oh, Honey Jack, you talking about like a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Jack and water. Yeah, that's a guy who's really looking to get ripped.
Yes.
Jack and water.
Another person agreed last week they were drinking Corona Light with Patron.
See, the Corona stuff, I don't know. I just don't love Corona. There's nothing against it. I'm just, like, I got to really be in the mood for a Corona.
The other guy said he was drinking Rum Runners last week.
The Rum Runner's not bad. That's a nice day on the beach.
Nice day.
Yeah, you get a little floater in the straw there. You know what I'm talking about? You put the power straw in there, so that first pull of the straw has an extra little blast for you.
A couple of extra cone for you.
Yeah.
Some lining Kugel, Shummer, Sandy.
Well, Kugels are nice. I could do 1 or 2 of them. That's not a day. I can't do like a 6er.
Now, here's an interesting one. This guy says he drinks fireballs from the freezer with Bud Lights.
I like that. The Fireball in the freezer. Nice cold shot of Fireball.
And really quick, the next text after that said, no, Fireball was too sweet. This guy drinks Miller Lite and Jack Fire.
All right. Well, it sounded like you had a good party last Friday.
Hey, man.
Happy Hour Friday in the books. Thanks to everybody who participated today. Be safe this weekend. We're having fun with Happy Hour Friday. We always try to. The Happy Hour Friday show is in the books. I'm back on Monday. Billy Schweim has the lifeguard races from Wildwood coming up next.